gets the shotgun snap, back to pass. Blitz comes late, throws over the middle. Caught by Presley, and he takes it into the end zone. Pistols firing. Touchdown, Oklahoma State. The freshman, Brennan Presley, with his third touchdown of the night.
Oklahoma State Radio Network on that one. A little Cheez-It Bowl action from yesterday as OSU defeats Miami 37-34. A valiant comeback attempt from the Canes, especially after Derek King, their senior quarterback, gets hurt in the contest. However, just short again in bowl season for Miami, and they ain't back. They're an 8-win team this year, but it feels like a lost season, especially when you go back and look at what happened to them in that North Carolina game. The Tar Heels are still scoring touchdowns on Miami after that 66-26 loss. So that's a team that came up short and had a terrible ending to the season, where Oklahoma State finished on an uptick, and that is what bowl season can do for you. What it do, everybody? Welcome into the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by Ned James this morning. Micah holding it down at Radio Ranch. We got Alden and Josh on the ProView Network side. And bowl season has been up and down. It's been back and forth. It's been wild. Miami was definitely one of the teams that needed something, especially with what happened the last time they're on the football field against North Carolina. They come up short again, and it was a short-handed Oklahoma State team that had their off-the-field issues in the offseason, thanks to their head coach, Chuba Hubbard, one of the best running backs in college football, opted out and come out there and get a win to end their season.
Yeah, it was a really good game. I really enjoyed watching this game. But like you said, the coach put the focus on him this past offseason, and the focus stayed on him, even though Chuba had to opt out. He opted out towards the end of the season. It was just kind of a crazy scenario where the coach had to be humbled, a coach who had become a little bit full of himself, I thought. And so, I think a lot of times, we're all human. We make mistakes. I think Gundy made a series of flubs, I should say, with talking to the media or trying to be in the media or trying to make a statement. But this team came out and made a statement last night. I mean, I thought Miami has young talent. It's not the Miami of old. They're just going to have to realize that they're not going to go back to those heydays, the 2000s when they were just rocking everybody. But Oklahoma State, they surprised me. I mean, they're a really sound football team, and they were able to pull out this win. But really a good game. I liked some of the young talent I saw on the Miami side, but we don't know with these young guys. Now guys are leaving so early that you've got to get your production up front with these guys, and so. But an entertaining game to start. This bowl week, and I like to see these games tonight as well to see how the bowl season is gonna wrap up.
And of course, we have Florida and Oklahoma Cotton Bowl tonight. Kyle Trask, one of the Heisman finalists, his top 4 receivers has opted out of this game. And we usually have that in bowl season. Sometimes it's guys that believe they're going to be selected high in the NFL draft will forego their final game in some of these cases. But it's been even more so this year with the weird, inconsistent year it has been. And we've seen even more players, not necessarily just a bunch of first-round picks, but guys, whether they're struggling with injury, the team's not good, they're not buying in, and have opted out of this season and moved on. And Florida is one of those teams that's been hit with that tonight. So Kyle Trask is someone that I had him number 2. I voted Devontae Smith number 1 on my Heisman ballot, Kyle Trask number 2, and then I went with Mac Jones, a quarterback at Alabama. But this is one you're really going to find out just how good a quarterback Kyle Trask is when your top 4 receivers are not available against an Oklahoma team that you expect can score some points.
Florida with the opt-outs, that's really unfortunate. These guys. The interesting thing, college coaches hate when guys who have been in the pros. I'm not gonna say I'm a pro coach, but just that we use the term free agency. Essentially, this year it's great for a guy like me because I look at it like free agency. These guys are all free agents now because guys can come back and play another year. Guys can go to other schools and play and don't have any consequences. it's if you're trying to build a successful team, you go get the best players. You try to find out where they are and you try to get them. No matter if they're in high school, they're in junior college, or even if they're at another 4-year school, you go get the best players to try to win the games. And so with guys having an extra year, these senior players, if I'm watching a game and am I watching some senior, whether it's offensive lineman, defensive lineman, a skilled guy who's a senior, guys are saying, hey, they want to get on with their life. Hey, you want to get on with your life? Hey, how about we give you some scholarship money and some tuition? You come in and take a couple classes and play some football for another year, while you decide on what you want to do with your life. I think that's going to play into a lot of what guys are watching when they're watching these bowl games. I mean, they're essentially watching for players, and I know guys are saying, hey, you develop with young guys, but in this world of big money, college athletics, college football, college basketball, you got to win now. These coaches are making millions of dollars in college football. You got to win right now. That Brian Harsin going over to Auburn, let him go 500 this year at Auburn. That will be the quickest hook you have ever seen in college football. Even though he's got a 4 or 5, they don't care about giving you $20-30 million to go home. They expect you to win when you're at those places. So it'll be interesting to see Florida. I know Kyle Trask, Devontae Smith is interesting because I saw where he's from. One of my good friends that I coached in the NFL up in Seattle, James Atkins, left tackle for 10 years in the NFL. He's from Amite, Louisiana, which is a little small town. I'm the only guy that JJ, that's been to Amite, Louisiana. That's where Devontae Smith is from, Amite, Louisiana, which is a little small town in Louisiana. And so it'll be interesting to see who wins the Heisman. He seems like he's the front runner right now. I know you voted for Trask. I do think Trask is better than the Alabama quarterback.
I had Trask at 2. And then Mac Jones at 3. It was tough because I really like Najee Harris, the running back as well. And that's one of those tough situations. It's like what we saw with Joe Burrow last season at LSU. Burrow was good, but then you look at the talent surrounding him, and it's, just how good are some of these quarterbacks? Like Tua Tagovailoa, at Alabama, just how good was he? And even with the hip injury, he still was a top 10 quarterback. But it was picked before Justin Herbert. Now you're having that conversation was Herbert the better quarterback, even though he didn't look as good in college, and Justin Jefferson, a guy that was wide receiver at LSU, has a 1,000-yard season as a rookie. And that's the hard thing, right? Like how good are these guys when you're in such a loaded system? And it's tough. I gave Mac Jones some credit, but that's why I had him at number 3, because I thought Devontae Smith was the best wide receiver in college football this season, because it's the Devontae Adams situation in Green Bay. There's a number 1 that you have to stop, and you still can't stop him. So that's why I give a guy a ton of credit. And so, but I think Kyle Trask, has a big opportunity to show what he can be without all that talent. That's a tough situation to be in against Oklahoma team that did finish the season on an uptick, while they were still well on the outside looking in because of the struggles that they had in the Big 12. This could be a statement moment for a guy that's on the outside of the top tier of quarterbacks when it comes to the NFL draft. So this could be a big moment for him. It could also be a terrible moment for Kyle Trask to end the season, because a lot of people won't take into consideration he's missing his top 4 targets. It will just be the last time they see him going up against a high-profile team. Because if you recall, he did everything that he could in the SEC championship game and came up short because that Alabama team is just too darn good.
And it was a good game. And I know we're going to get into talking about the Mountain West coaches, football coaches, and the first-year coaches and the job that they've done this year. I think one of the things also I like to always talk about is teams west of the Mississippi River. And so when you're talking about these SEC schools, you're talking about Florida, you're talking about all the Alabama schools and everybody down there, Georgia and everywhere. Whenever you're playing a team west, I mean, Florida came out and made some statements about Oklahoma not being really that good and not being able to really compete with SEC, quote, just below the NFL talent that they consider themselves down in the SEC. And so Oklahoma has a chance now to kind of, put some things to rest with all that talk of them not being quite as good as those teams in the SEC. So I'm curious to see how they'll play just from that standpoint, because of the fact that Florida called them out. And I know there's some guys in Oklahoma that may opt out. I don't know if there's any guys that we've heard that are opting out. But I'm curious to see how they play, how the talent, West. I still think Texas and California really have a lot of talent. We have a lot of talent out west, and we get to showcase it in these bowl games against these teams in the South. Now, will Oklahoma indicate to anybody that they deserve, SEC recognition? I don't know, but this is a test, and there shouldn't be any excuses just because you got 4 guys out that are potential NFL players. Nobody knows how if they're going to make it in the NFL or not, so you can't use that as an excuse. So we'll see if Florida is able to just kind of, because they really believe that they're just so superior to Oklahoma.
SEC football.
If they're going to be able to do that today.
You know how that goes when we're talking college football, and it involves the SEC. But we got a good one tonight, OU and Florida. We'll dive into that. What the heck happened last night to the University of Colorado, or CU University, against Texas? And how did Texas get a sophomore quarterback from Oklahoma City that looks like he can be the future of their program to go to Austin? A ton to get to. But coming up next, to all my coaches, to all my armchair basketball coaches, what are you doing with the Lobo men's basketball team? Paul Weir spoke to the media yesterday, so we'll dive into some of the things he said, how his team is responding from what happened at Boise State as they get ready to take on Nevada this Thursday and Saturday. So my question is to you, if you were in the situation, head coach of this basketball team, what are you doing? What are you trying to get done with this roster, with what you've seen out of them the last week? We'll get to that next. The opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
You've seen Rich Eisen on TV and heard him on the radio, but have you listened to the Rich Eisen Show podcast?
Bob Costas, how are you, Bob? Hey, Rich, how are you? I am doing very well. How do you... Bobby's looking, and he's got a guy wide open, and it's Gay, and he's gonna walk into the end zone. But he did a good job with it. First and goal, it's Chavez to the middle, and Chavez stops.
Stevens in motion. On the handoff to Mitchell. Look out! Oh, see you later. Take it to the house. Fly, Cardinals fly. To the other side, provide some protection. And off to Webskowski again. Look out! See you later. Good night. Touchdown, Webskowski. Day. He's going to fire to the end zone. Open man! Touchdown! Wildcat! Not a defender inside. A little bit. Kowski on the sideline! Hasta mañana! He's off to the races! Touchdown! Clovis!
Albuquerque this afternoon.
34-24, Rancho, late in the third. How about this run? Nice play. Dickerman, he's still on his feet. Touchdown, Wolverine.
towards the end zone. It's grabs. Touchdown. What a play.
And long here for the Storm. Handoff to, we're going to fake the handoff, excuse me. Davidson on the deep ball, he's got some space, and it's caught! Still on his feet, touchdown! Storm! Wow. Santa Maria!
And so they'll send one deep and returnable at the 2. Usually Volcano do either a reverse or a fake reverse, and here it is, a reverse. And a move to the outside. There is a lane. Look out! Shot out of a cannon. Rodriguez is going to take it all the way.
Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Well, I'm going to the Frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Oh, let's get a little closer. Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass. Hill's gonna just shoot it. He's gonna go all the way. He's gonna fire at the buzzer and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much.
Tie in the district, inside, fly, Eagles!
Chavez uses some athleticism. And then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds. And look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer!
Well, to all my basketball coaches, armchair basketball coaches, the question is, what are you doing with this Lobo men's basketball team as they get ready to host Nevada Thursday and Saturday at Lubbock Christian University? They got back to work this week. They left on the 27th, took the about 5 to 6 hour bus ride from Albuquerque to Lubbock to get back to work to host Mountain West basketball. Thursday, 7 o'clock is a tip-off. You can hear the game at 6:30 over on News Radio KKOB, UNM Sports Radio Network with Robert Portnoy and Hunter Green, who, by the way, Hunter Green will join us today at 8:30. So we'll ask him this question. What do? You saw them get shredded. A reality check, an eye-opener, slice of humble pie, insert whatever other cliche you'd like in those games against Boise State last week. They did not compete. Didn't look like they had a chance to compete, and you saw some of the holes on this roster. So what are you going to do? Now, what would you try to do if you had this basketball team? It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck, joined by our quarterback, Ned James, Michael holding it down. We got Alden and Josh on the ProView Network side. I was thinking about that last night. After listening to Paul Weir talk to the media, Rod Brown spoke, had some good comments. I really like Rod Brown on this team. His leadership skills are coming through. He said a lot of really good things that, he said that he's just, his focus, he's trying to keep the guys together, trying to keep their heads up, be a voice defensively, really try to assert himself on the floor. And he's a guy that sat out in last season, hasn't played in 2 years since he was at Wichita State, but yet he realizes, someone other than McQuatch Malawach has to try to step up and bring this team together. And I really like what Rod Brown had to say. And when you hear some of these guys talk, as frustrating as it is on the outside looking in with their performances, there's quality guys on this roster that are trying to step up right now and hold it together. It's just 2 games in, but it was 2 really rough games, which is going to be hard to get that out of your mind as a fan. You're going to be stuck on those performances because, yes, Boise State is that much better than New Mexico right now. And I know no one wants to hear the excuses, not having a rim, etc., but that was the reality of it that week. So how do you move on? So looking at this basketball team, I'm sitting there, I'm being that armchair basketball coach right now, I'm not thinking about havoc. I'm not thinking about speeding it up. I'm actually thinking about slowing it down a bit. I want to create pressure in a half court. So if I had this roster, I'd really pack in my half court defensive sets. I'd trap at times if the ball goes to the corner, if the ball goes in to the post, but I'd really keep it simple, half court, man-to-man pressure defense for this roster that we've seen make a lot of defensive mistakes as well. So I'd keep it simple in that regard, work on the rotations, traps like corner, post, to say keep the guy in front of you, know what to do on ball screens, and keep everything in a half court. And then on the flip side, with the team not shooting well, it's all about spacing right now. I'm talking 4 out, 1 in. Have just one guy in the post, guys on the perimeter, a lot of dribble drive motion, and then pick and roll for days. I want that thing to look like a revolving door on the outside. Just pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. Get guys in motion. You got to get movement. You got to get guys going towards the basket because I don't know where the shooting is coming from on this team. Outside of Javonte Johnson, who hasn't started great, but it's a true freshman that showed flashes. No one's shooting on this team. Keith McGee is still day-to-day with his ankle injury. He was the one guy that you said, well, we've seen him make shots at the Division I level and throughout Mountain West Conference play. So I'm spacing the floor. I'm keeping it simple, running pick and rolls like crazy, just getting guys in motion, getting guys going downhill towards the basket, and then working with the young forwards in Valdir and Byron Matos in some of those high post situations. Give them easy passes in the post, work that high-low game, free throw line to low post. So keeping it simple. That's what I would do moving forward with this team if I was, as I am, the armchair basketball coach. What are some things that jump out to you, Ned?
Well, you mentioned the shooting, which, it's not going to get solved just by saying they need a shooter. Yeah. That doesn't solve anything. The issue still, you made it simple, but you have to understand we have Dr. Paul Weir as the basketball coach. So it ain't going to be simple. There's going to be a strategy, and there's going to be a sophisticated, complicated, something that kind of keeps the opponents guessing on how they're going to play. That's always been Paul Weir's mantra. Ever since he got here, he's never made it what people think it should be. Like, he came in with this press, full court, up and down, gonna wear people down. Then it transitioned to some zone. Then it transitioned into a spacing. But you have to kind of figure out your team as you go along. And I think he enjoys that. I think he enjoys that whole process of developing and figuring out a system as guys tend to fall into their roles as players. You just never know how guys are going to fall into these roles. Paul's in it for the long game. I don't think he necessarily is worried about these first couple games. Coaches, they may at some point you may hear rumblings about the fact that they have to practice out of state or they're playing these games. But coaches don't necessarily really worry too much about those kind of things. Those kind of things, they're too busy thinking about the ball game and how they can get points and how they can, defend and those kind of things. And so I really think that the development and the system that's going to be put in place by Paul Weir, it's just going to take time. It's going to morph into, because everybody's always complaining about what are they doing. Are they don't play any defense? You hear this every year. What kind of strategy or play calling is Paul Weir going with? What kind of system is Paul Weir using? They say this every year with him, but eventually the team evolves into what he believes they should evolve into based on their talent. And he's got quality assistant coaches on that staff. He's got players that are just learning themselves for the first time. He's got to find out who the true leaders are. Leadership comes from production. Brown can talk all he wants, but he's got to do something definitive on the court that warrants his leadership from the rest of the team. McQuatch, he's already embedded his leadership quality by being just an all-around just hustle guy and just a glue guy. That's been his role ever since he got here. He's just been that kind of guy. I don't think his role is really changing much. But at the end of the day, you got to find a shooter. It doesn't matter what kind of system you run. Somebody's got to score the ball, and you got to find out who that person's going to be, because people are going to figure out who the guy is that scores the ball, and I don't care what system you're running, they're going to try to take that guy away. So it's got to be somebody that's there that they've got to get some scoring from. And I don't know if it's a shooter. I don't know if it's a post player, but somebody has got to be able to score the ball on a consistent basis for this team in order for this team to be successful. Now, the defensive end, that's going to change. They're going to experiment with different styles of play on the defensive end. But as far as the scoring element goes, we're still looking. And I know, we've got guys playing. They're living in trailer parks in Alamogordo, playing on concrete courts, asphalt courts outside. So they're in a dire situation. I'm exaggerating and being sarcastic because you have to realize that they've got to find a way to win a basketball game. They've got to find a way to get it done on the court. It doesn't matter what your conditions are. It doesn't matter that you're in Lubbock. No one cares that you're in Lubbock. They just want you to win basketball games. Just like the guys, they called it the University Stadium West in Vegas. We got to call it Pitt South in Lubbock. That's the Pitt South now. So we got to find a way to win some games down there in the Pitt South, which is in Lubbock. Lubbock, has the best barbecue I've ever eaten in my life. So, you got some things going for you down there in Lubbock, guys. So I don't want to hear no complaining.
I don't know if the best barbecue is what they're enjoying right now when they're trying to get in basketball shape, but it sure does sound good if you're able to get it delivered to your hotel. So that is the question. What are you doing with this Lobo basketball roster? It was 2 Mountain West games. They have 18 more to go. To Ned's point, yes, we understand development, the path this squad is on, but that's what we get to do. We get to talk and react about sports. So to all my basketball coaches, my armchair basketball coaches, what are the things you would try to do with this roster? We come back on the other side. We'll dive into what Paul Weir and company is trying to do, how the team is responding to what happened in Boise last week, as it's Steve Alford and the Nevada Wolfpack. It doesn't quite have the same oomph when it's not Steve Alford walking down that pit ramp, but that is the opponent coming up Thursday and Saturday. You can get involved in the show. Quan's Auto Care hotline is 246-0610. You can email the show, jj@610knml.com. Find me on the Twitter. It's _JJBuck. Full house once again. We got Ned James, Michael holding it down at Radio Ranch, Alden, Josh on the ProView side. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
I-25 at Broadway.
Get a little closer. Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass. Here's what he'll just shoot it. He's going to go all the way. He's going to fire at the buzzer, and he hits. Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much.
In the district, inside, fly, Eagles!
Chavez uses some athleticism, and then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds, and look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer! Chavez, the sharpshooter, got it.
Could have said that any better. He answered the question.
On
Got
a
another
steal
one.
at the buzzer. Back to back for Chavez.
To the paint. Medina from the volleyball lines. Medina wants another one from deep. Oh, he wants 10. Give him 10.
Lewis finds Watson. He's going to finish. One-handed slam. Cano Vista, but just all the different scenarios we can see potentially play out ahead of the state tournament.
Moreno extra pass. And Watson. Out with it, Gallegos, and he's going to run all the way. Window, yes! Able to get out of it. How did he find Battle? It's to Cunningham, and it...
I mean, Ramos' hand. And
Ramos puts it up, beats the buzzer!
boy, Jefferson wide open.
Jefferson to Daraji! Into Watson with the jam!
Another steal by Davina Lovato, and here comes Agbaiosi. Lob, two-hand hammer. You knew that was coming. The lob to Agbaiosi, the one-hand hammer.
But I do feel like mentally we're in a good place. We had a great practice yesterday, which was good. And I feel like just our conversations and our overall team vibe is in a very, very good place. Much better than maybe you could or would expect from the outside view. So we do got to clean up, as you said, the physical part of things. But I think the mental side for us is where we're at right now. And then the physical will come in time as we get more time with the guys.
You got to believe, you got to stay confident. And Ed, you know that as a coach that's worked with young athletes, the scoreboard at the end of the day is what a lot of people focus on, but you still got a lot of games to play. That's 18 more Mountain West games if all things go correctly for the Lobo men's basketball team. That was Paul Weir yesterday talking to the media in a Zoom press conference. And he's right. It's the long game. It's a process. It's working through a lot of things, just trying to figure out what works best for this basketball team. You know, that's the question. As a fan, you want to see results. Of course, the easiest answer is, well, just go win a game. But also, what would you do? You watched how these players react on the court, some of their individual talents. How would you handle the team? I think it's a situation where you try to keep it simple. We're talking fundamentals, half-court D, trap in certain situations, keep the guys in front of you, not try to extend yourself too much, because I actually think what this team doesn't want to do at this moment in time is get into up-tempo games with even more possessions because of the lack of perimeter scoring at this moment in time. But Paul Weir company, they're working. Rod Brown, yeah, he has to produce on the court, but I thought, he's a presence that's been standing out in this team where there's 12 new faces on the court this season. And when you're not quite getting the production, how are you going to keep it together? And Rod Brown, one of the things that he said yesterday is guys' confidence might be waning a little bit. You don't see those shots fall then how do you keep going? How do you get that next play mentality? Because ultimately it does come down to this team could play the best defense ever, but if they're not scoring a basketball, you're not winning 12-10 in basketball. Like, there's a shot clock. There's not a four corners offense where you're able to drain it and play this thing out. You're going to have to get to the hoop, score. I think there's pieces that can do that, but the question is, when is that going to come through for this basketball team? And it's Thursday against Nevada. Steve Walford kind of going through the same thing. It's a brand new Nevada roster for him, leaning on 2 transfers in the backcourt that became eligible this year. We saw the blanket waiver passed a couple weeks ago by the NCAA, where they're just like, we're not dealing with it anymore. If you transferred, you're somewhere else, you can play this year. So it's one of those years that you've talked about is almost free agency for some of these guys. Other players thought they were going to have to sit out. Now they've been back in for 2 weeks. So there's still a lot going on. And we are, what is that? Is it the 30th already? So we're 2 days away from the new year. And yet some of these basketball teams are still in just the first month of this season. It's what has happened. Still opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the sports animal. J.J. Buck, our quarterback, Ned James, Micah holding it down, taking your calls, 246-0610. Alden and Josh on the ProView side. So it's that balance where you have players stepping up, trying to lead, keep those guys together. And how important is that? With just having athletes, student athletes that you can rely on as a coach, because I'm sure when you're struggling, when you're going good, sometimes, and when you're 18 to 22-year-old, you can only take so much from coaches. So if there is a guy or two that emerges as someone that can keep the guys together, help echo what the coaches want, how important is that to a roster?
It's very important. The players and the coaches all need someone that's going to be there no matter what. You kind of look around and you kind of see, okay, which guys look like they're staring at Interstate 40 and they're ready to get their bags and head home to mama, and which ones look like they're going to be here for the duration. I'm sure, Paul Weir has probably talked to Danny and probably talked to, because, they experienced it in Vegas, just to get some ideas on what the kids' behaviors were and how, after, being down, how was he able to kind of rally those guys and get those guys to stay, positive and stay into what they were trying to get accomplished. And, you always kind of lean on other people just to see, you try to get resources from anywhere you can get them in order to find out what's the remedy for what your players are going through. But I think for most coaches, they kind of have an idea already where they want to get to. You have to adjust. That's a part of coaching. Things come up, you have to adjust. We're in the throes of a global pandemic. We have state health orders that these coaches have to abide by, just like every other citizen of the state. They understand that. They respect that. They respect the governor's position, I'm sure. They understand she has a tough job. And so their job is nothing compared to what she's doing. So, hey, we just forge on. And as a result, we've got to get it done. We've got to find a way to get it done. And Paul Weir knows that. He understands that. I mean, you don't see, you can't see the leader wavering. You cannot look as a player, student athlete, and see that your leader is in some way playing a victim. He's a victim somehow. And so if the head coach is playing the victim, then what am I supposed to do? Am I a victim as well? No, you got to go out and play. You got to figure out a way to get it done. Paul's just figuring out he's got a new team, essentially, with all the transfers that he has in and new guys, new faces, except for McQuatch. And so they've got to figure it out. But they got to find a way to score the ball. I mean, it's going to be interesting talking to Hunter, because he's a baller. He was a scorer. Now, Hunter was a scorer. So, I mean, I just remember being at the pit. If that ball came out to Hunter in that corner, it was a bucket now. So, I guess that's my relationship to basketball when it comes to UNM basketball, is the guys that played while I was here. And just knowing that, hey, we knew we were getting 20 wins every year when you were a Lobo basketball player. That's what the fans expect here in Albuquerque. So anything short of that, they don't want to hear it. They don't want to hear it, And like I said, the accommodations be damned. That doesn't have anything to do with the basketball game. You got to go out there and win the game and play the game. And so I'm just curious to hear what Hunter's take is on it. And I'm sure everybody's going to, you want to give, the coach a little bit, of some grace because of, the circumstances. But at the same time, when we start talking basketball, it's all about the ball. It's all about the game. It's all about scoring and winning.
Well, 20 wins might be tough this season, given the fact that at best they can play 23 games on the year. So that would be a heck of a run they would go on with 18 left in Mountain West play. And that's, of course, barring any postponements and or cancellations that could pop up this season. But it's Nevada up next Thursday and Saturday, their next Mountain West series. Steve Alford, the Wolfpack, come to town. The Wolfpack has split their opening series against Air Force. Won the first game, lost the second game to the Falcons. You talk about the backcourt, Cambridge and Sherfield are the new players that are stepping up. Sherfield taking over starting point guard duties. Cambridge is a shooter that can get really hot and take over a game from the outside. And that's one of the things that Lobos talked about yesterday, is just matching the intensity, the physicalness of an opponent. And that's the thing you see. It was a huge step up in competition from just the games that were available against LeTourneau and Our Lady of the Lake to Boise State. So now that you got the shock to the system as a young player, are you ready for what's coming? And it's guys that are fast, it's guys that are bigger, it's guys that can push you around in the post now, not guys that you can just stand there and grab a rebound over without even having to jump. And so you got that. Like, you need to go through the bumps. Like, no one likes it, but you got to go through the failures to get to ultimately where you want to go. And I think that, one of the biggest questions with this Lobo basketball roster is, what is the best way to get there? And you've laid it out yet. Paul Weir, that coaching staff, they have a plan. But if that plan takes longer, it's just going to be rougher as a fan to try to get through it. But I said that opening series is just going to hang there. Like, there's nothing else. There's no way to spin it. When you're down by 40 points, you lose a game by 40. You can say all the things and you can break it down, but ultimately as a fan, you're just like, what just happened? So with Louisville basketball moving forward, we'll talk with Hunter Green about it coming up at 8:30. What are things you would do? What are things you want to see out of this team as they got that rough wake-up call in Boise? How will they respond coming up against Nevada? 2460610 is the Quan's Auto Care hotline. You can email the show, jj@610canamel.com. We come back on the other side. An NBA record was set yesterday, and it happened in a place that usually doesn't happen. It's next on the opening drive here at 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Moreno extra pass, and Watson. Out with it, Gallegos, and he's gonna run all the way. Window, yes! Able to get out of it. How did he find Battle? It's to Cunningham, and it...
Ramos was handling.
Ramos puts it up, beats the buzzer!
Boy, Jefferson wide open.
Jefferson to Daraji! Into Watson with the jam!
Another steal by Divino Lovato, and here comes Agbaiosi. Lob, two-hand hammer. You knew that was coming. Check out the lob to Agbaiosi, the one-hand hammer.
Put up. And a drive from Parham.
gives it off to Rivas for the three, and he buries it.
Could be coming in soon. Double kick set for Avalos. Goes to the right. Avalos puts it up high. Window. Scores and is fouled.
Right here by Lewis all the way, coast to coast, and finish.
What a
around the screen against White. Step back, it's blocked. JB with the block.
In transition, ahead to hit on for the two-hand hammer.
Minutes to go. They've got a shot. They have a chance, and it's put up, and it's good. What a three that is by Jalen.
Hidon puts it up.
Rebound Cowboys. Right side David Hall. Thank you very much. Here come the Cowboys. Domina Lovato lays it up. Missed it. Hey, how about it? Thank you, Lusses. Thank you very much, Raquan Mitchell. Clock at 6. They get it. Barnes Tompkins fires. Yes! Pass up court. This for the win. Blocked by DJ Bustos. Cowboys win. Cowboys win.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
It obviously felt like we made a lot. So no, I had no idea in the fourth quarter or now. Like I said, there's some nights when you're just shooting it at a high percentage, and hopefully we can do that, something close to that regularly. But I had no idea.
Bucks head coach Mike Budenholzer on his team hitting a single game NBA record 29 three-point shots last night in their 144-97 victory at Miami. And that usually doesn't happen in Miami because the nightlife is undefeated. However, can't quite do the same stuff. You're going down to Miami, can't really leave the hotel. Gonna get hit in the COVID protocol. Going to get in trouble. Yes. So these guys not able to have the Miami experience that they're used to. They actually have to focus on playing a basketball game. And for the Milwaukee Bucks, it was much needed because they gave up 130 points and lost to the New York Knicks in the previous game. And I get it was only game 4 of the season, but Milwaukee needed to respond, had to have a bounce back game, and they did that. Yes, Giannis did not hit a three-point shot. They made 29 three-point shots. Giannis was 0 for 2. His brother hit one, so there you go. But, Giannis, the perimeter shooting, having to shoot threes, I think it's overblown. The same thing happens for Ben Simmons. Are you good at basketball? Do you have teammates that can help you out? In this case, Chris Middleton hit 4. Drew Holiday had 6. Dante DiVincenzo had 5. Heck, their center hit 3. So they're all right in Milwaukee. But that's the kind of performance you need around Giannis. You're not hitting 29 three-point shots every single night. But that is how this team is going to be a contender in the East. It is shooting around your star in Giannis, and 29 is pretty darn good.
Yes, 29 is good. Giannis not hitting a three-pointer is interesting. I mean, his brother being on the team, I think, is great. I think that's a great move by that club to keep him there. But the fact they lost to the Knicks the night before, that was big. And everyone's picking on the Knicks, but hopefully the Knicks can get it turned around, because we need a New York City team.
But do we now? Do we now?
With Brooklyn?
How long can we keep saying sports need big market teams? When was the last time the Knicks were any good? The building they play in is more famous than their basketball team.
Yes, it is. But the tradition, it's like we talked about with even with football, these traditional powers. No one cares about the NCAA national championship in college football if it isn't Alabama, Notre Dame, USC, Michigan, or Ohio State. I'm putting Penn State on a 75-year ban because of Sandusky. But the big major schools, people want to see those big major programs, whether it's in the professional sports or college sports. They want to see those teams. And so that's why the Knicks they have to be relevant. You have to have these major, because you need the small cities to be able to have somebody to conquer. You need David
New York
and Goliath.
having to be relevant. Have you seen how bad the sports teams are and the world keeps on moving? How bad the Jets have been? What we've seen from the New York Giants? The Knicks are not relevant. They don't need to be relevant for us to move on and enjoy the NBA. The building means more than that basketball team.
In order for you to have David, you need Goliath. You need to have someone to say, look, us little people, we can beat the big people. We can beat the people in New York City. You need people in Iowa to feel good about themselves. They have
the people in Milwaukee.
A team in New York. In Milwaukee. That's right.
That way. They got the superstar. They got Giannis. They got a team that hit 29 three-point shots. The Knicks have Elfrid Payton and Kevin Knox and Mitchell Robinson coming at you.
And they have Broadway, and they have the Wall Street, and they have the Empire State Building. All that stuff Milwaukee has. The whole city smells like a brewery, and so it stinks in Milwaukee. So you better have a good basketball team.
Some people would sign up for that. Are you kidding me? It smells like a brewery. Give me some cheese and pretzels, and we're good to go.
Yeah, that's what they'll sell it in Milwaukee: cheese and beer. So, but yeah, Milwaukee. I think Giannis being there this year, I think they have a great shot at winning the East. I know everybody's on the Brooklyn train right now, but I still like a hardworking guy like Giannis. He's a working, and that's why everybody loves sports, is because you want that working man to be able to go out there and overcome and beat the elitists. I mean, Brooklyn, you can say whatever you want. New York City, everybody sees them as the ivory tower, and they see these guys as the peasants trying to get to that ivory tower. And when David overcomes Goliath, the world is a better place.
New York's got Brooklyn, because the Knicks haven't been relevant, won't be relevant for a long time. So at least you got Brooklyn coming in the conversation. But for Milwaukee, they have to be in the Eastern Conference Finals. Not just the NBA Finals. That team has to be in the Eastern Conference Finals this season. You just signed Giannis to the Supermax. You got him for a few more years. This is your time. I think all of a sudden, the top of the Eastern Conference got a whole lot deeper with how good Kevin Durant has looked coming back from his Achilles injury. So you're right. It's a flashy thing. Brooklyn, because we know what Kevin Durant can do. We've seen it. But Milwaukee, that performance last night, they needed a bounce back game, and they needed to show that they have enough shooting around Giannis to get to where they want to go. And that is a chance at an NBA championship. And that would be getting to the Eastern Conference Finals, not coming up short like they have the previous two seasons. Yes, they lost to the Toronto Raptors, who went on to win the NBA Finals. They lost to the Miami Heat, who went to the NBA Finals. They have to be the team that goes to the Eastern Conference Finals and is positioned to make it to the NBA Finals, because he got the reigning MVP, got enough shooting around him, and last night was one of those moments. It's early. It was game 4 of 72, but those are the things that stand out when we're looking at the pretenders versus the contenders. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by Ned James, Michael holding it down. We got Alden and Josh on the ProView side. Coming up at 8:30, talk with Hunter Green, analyst, former Lobo player, but always a Lobo. Let's get his thoughts on Lobo basketball, what he sees out of this team, what he thinks they can be moving forward. It is the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Second field goal, he's got 4 points. Watson, though, goes all the way.
Hit the deck, I should say. Cordova tried to throw it off. Romero, a 3 for...
Set out to Jude Tapia. Nice move behind his back. It's a good... Here's Ramos, step back, high arcing, 20!
Well, he needed to get his legs back under him.
Ooh, little kick.
They leave it one more time. Two-hand hammer.
Look at this, they're not going to score again. Look at this.
Up top. Yes, and the finish for Akbayosi. Saved into the hands of Riak. Ahead of the pack to Davina Lovato. Up high, down hard for Akbayosi. Out of the corner, Casals, the 3-0, Katenge! Let me clean up the mess! He dropped out of the rafters for that one, Steve.
We look ahead to week 17, still 35 possible wild card game scenarios are on the table. How is it that we get to this point in time and there's still so much to be decided? Well, adding that one extra wild card spot this season has kept some of that intrigue, and the fact that there's just some teams that are a roller coaster ride. Good one week, bad another. It's a week-to-week league, the NFL, not for long. So heading into week 17, some major games on the slate. Who's going to win the NFC East? We get Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett revenge game between the Steelers and Browns in a must-win scenario for the Cleveland Browns. What did you, everyone? Welcome in to the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal. JJ Buck, joined by Ned James, Michael holding it down, taking your calls. 246-0610 is the Quan's Auto Care Hotline. Alden and Josh on the ProView side. You can find us Comcast Channel 26. Stream us online. Facebook is a great place to go. Search for ProView Networks or the opening drive. So Pittsburgh announced that they're going to rest Ben Roethlisberger in week 17 against the Cleveland Browns. So it's Mason Rudolph, who the last time we saw Mason Rudolph, he was getting doinked in the head by a swing of a helmet from Myles Garrett, which is still one of the wildest things I have seen on a football field in quite some time. Who knows what happened in the moment, but it happened. And now Myles Garrett, Cleveland Browns bounce back. They're in a must-win situation. And Pittsburgh, they're thinking about themselves. You know, it's about rest over anything else right now for Ben Roethlisberger, making sure you can get every last drop out of that arm when you can get to the postseason. Now, It's juicy. It makes for a good headline. What happens the first time Myles Garrett meets Mason Rudolph in the backfield? Oh, he'll sack him, and then he'll get up and walk away, because I don't think he's swinging any more helmets this time. But it's heading into Week 17, all these scenarios, and Pittsburgh is giving Cleveland a heck of a chance to do what they need to do, and that is win to, at least get themselves into the postseason. When you're playing Mason Rudolph instead of Ben Roethlisberger, feel a little bit better about what you can do in that game.
Yeah, and it should be a game that Cleveland can get out of, hopefully, and put themselves in a position to get in the playoffs. The Myles Garrett Rudolph thing was interesting, and we don't want to see that kind of behavior on a football field, and of course nobody condones that kind of conduct. But it really was, for me, out of character for Myles Garrett. Now, guys see this as a violent game; it's a vicious, sport. But when you sit down and you have lunch with a guy, which I had with Myles Garrett when I was up in Cleveland, and the guy's talking about archaeology, it's hard to believe that he's the character guy that a lot of people think he is with the swinging of the hat. But at the same time, I think Myles Garrett at one point, in my opinion, was in contention to be the defensive player of the year in the NFL before the COVID thing, and he was out 2 games. He was leading in sacks, but the team has kind of hit a bit of a bump in the road here with the last couple games. I mean, they haven't played as well on defense, but I'm looking forward to a really heated contest, because they haven't forgotten that. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers realized what kind of player Myles Garrett is when he was rewarded with that contract. And despite the fact that he swung that helmet, they still gave him a major max contract. But the Cleveland Browns,
switch. It's a switch that you need to flip from being that dude at the table talking about archaeology to, I'm that dude that has to go hit someone else on the football field.
Yes, and I have to violently hit someone. It has to be, very, very violent. So it's a tough sport. Like you said, there's a switch, and guys have to, be able to know when to turn it on and when to turn it off. And in the heat of battle, things happen. You said you've never seen anything like that. Fortunately, I've been in enough NFL practices to see worse things than that happen in practice. And guys
on national TV at least.
Yeah, guys when they're playing, they're not thinking about TV. When they're playing and they may initially think about TV when they're going to the game, but when they're in the game, they're not thinking about that television. They're thinking about how to get their job done and what's going to get them some success on the field. So, Myles Garrett, Baker Mayfield, Jarvis Landry. I don't know if they're getting all these receivers back. There's some question whether there may be a couple that may still have to stay out another game. That's going to be the challenging part, in my opinion. If he doesn't have all the weapons, if they're going to be able to somehow put forth an offensive.
You saw them fall apart against the New York Jets. Yeah, you didn't have any receivers, but I thought, Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, you could put something together, at least give yourself a chance in that game. Baker Mayfield fumbles on the final 2 possessions, and they're in a must-win scenario because they couldn't beat the New York Jets last weekend. So if we're looking at the AFC playoff picture, it comes down to this. Tennessee, Cleveland, Miami, and Baltimore win. They are all in. And the team that does need the most help right now is the Indianapolis Colts, because they need one of those squads to lose this weekend, because they're a team that could win and not matter if those other teams win those games, because that's how good the back end of the AFC is right now, where Indianapolis could lose the division to Tennessee, and it would be a double-digit win team and still be on the outside looking in. But that's not the craziest thing that's happening. The craziest thing is still the NFC East, and the fact that all those teams have been bad for stretches, that we're sitting there looking at 6-win teams with the chance to win the NFC East. And it's going to be a first. 0-258. So they're going to break a streak that has not happened yet in the NFL. Since the Super Bowl era, it's beginning in 1966, 258 teams have started the season 2-7. None of those teams made the playoffs. Washington, Dallas, New York Giants all were 2-7 this season. So one of those teams is going to break that streak and become the first squad to go to the playoffs after starting 2-7. At one point in time, the Dallas Cowboys were 3-9. But thankfully for Dallas, as bad as they've been, same things happen in Washington. The same things happen for the New York Giants. We know it's pretty simple. If Washington wins Sunday Night Football, they are in. But if they lose to Philadelphia, then it goes to the winner of Dallas and New York Football Giants. A streak is being broken. How good are these teams? Not so good. But it's an opportunity, and it's right there for one of these three teams.
And it's going to be the Cowboys. We all know it. The city of Albuquerque needs it. This is a Dallas Cowboy city. No one wants to admit it. All the Cowboy haters, all the Jerry Jones haters that have not called in and have tried to cheer their team on to an NFC East victory ought to be ashamed of themselves. All these Dallas Cowboys fans that say they're Dallas Cowboy fans, I go over to the mall. There's a Dallas Cowboy shop in the mall. It's always packed with people buying Dallas Cowboy gear. But yet, we don't have these stand-up Dallas Cowboy fans. For some reason, do you have
calling you out, Mike? Calling you out right now.
16-0 in order for you to like your team or want your team to win the NFC East and get into the playoffs? No, you should be happy. Hey, it's tough to win a game in the NFL. So what? You're 7-9.
You should be happy. We're talking about sports. Who's happy when they talk about sports?
Right. Don't let these people give you an inferiority complex just because your record is below 500. If you get into the playoffs and their team is over 500 and they don't get in the playoffs, you are still reigning superior. So do not let other people make you feel bad because your team is under 500.
How do you feel, Mike? How do you feel right now on the verge of a below 500 postseason appearance?
I'm just happy to be here.
Just here so he doesn't get fined. All he can do is just make sure he doesn't get fined.
These Dallas Cowboy fans, and I think it's because of Jerry Jones, the confidence of the owner, it seems like the Dallas Cowboy fans do not like the fact that the owner is taking credit over all the coaches, all the players. It doesn't matter. The Dallas Cowboys.
What have they done since Jimmy Johnson?
It's about Jerry Jones. And that's what I like about Jerry Jones. I like that about him. And I like it because he's one of the only owners.
You like a man that takes credit for someone else's work?
Well, he's played the game. To me, he's like, hey, look, it's my money. I played the game. I know what the coaches
It's my money and I want it now.
Yeah, it is great. I think it's great. I mean, a lot of owners don't take – they take responsibility for it. But I think Jerry understands. I think he really does understand.
How's that worked out for him?
How it works. He's got 3 Super Bowls.
When were they?
He got a Super Bowl from a guy who thought he was the reason why they got the Super Bowl. Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson thought it was him that got the Super Bowl. And Jerry says, you know what? It wasn't you. I'm firing you and I'm going to hire somebody else. And he's going to win a Super Bowl. And so that's why I like Jerry Jones, because he's letting everyone know that, hey, the buck stops with me. I like that about Jerry Jones. I do. I really do. I like
You're the only one that likes that about Jerry Jones.
I am. And I've met him. He's a guy's guy. He doesn't sit in the ivory tower when it comes to the combine or it comes to the Senior Bowl. He's down there with the coaches. He's mingling. He's not, most owners, they have other businesses. This is just something that they can talk about at the country club. But Jerry is a football guy. He played the game. He really does love the game of football. As a owner and as a former player. So from that standpoint, I give him a lot of credit. And that's why I kind of always tease, Dallas Cowboy fans. But I think the city of Albuquerque, they love the Lobos and they love the Dallas Cowboys. People just don't want to admit that, but this is the city. The city is a better place when the Cowboys win.
Put it on the poll. What city is Albuquerque? Yes. What NFL team flag are you flying? Someone put a poll together. It's Pro V Guys, Micah. Put it on a poll. We'll figure it out. What NFL flag? There's one Chargers flag flying. So it's on the Pro V side. You see it right there. It's one. But the rest of them, we can try to get it figured out. What NFL flag is Albuquerque flying? And speaking of Jerry Jones, he had something to say about Boise State. What did he say? It's coming up next here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Mucinex presents.
Dorian over. Did he get in?
Yeah, they got in. He got in.
Touchdown, Dorian Lewis.
Seconds to play. Benavides looking, still looking up the middle. It's intercepted. It's picked off by Freddie Anaya, and Roswell's season will end perfect.
Second quarter, 2nd and 4 for Socorro at the whole 44-yard line. McDaniel trying, good block by Hicks. First down and more, 30, 25, 20. McDaniel might be gone. Touchdown.
Wow.
Touchdown for Michael McDaniel.
It's 40 seconds this year. It's not like 25 like it used to be.
He laterals it back. What a play by Hightower. Pitch.
Looked like somebody moved a little bit early. Hicks, the play fake double move. He's got his receiver wide open. Caught. One man to beat. Touchdown. Touchdown to number 17, Nathaniel.
Third and 6. Big defensive play coming up here. Little trickery to Reese. See you later. Touchdown. They went for the deep ball to Reese.
To the right, single receiver split to the left. Play fake, head up the middle's got some room. 50, 45, 40, has one man to beat. 30, 25, 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Hope.
Wow.
On a
Option again, he'll keep it. Now he'll pitch it. Comes out to the 30, 25, 20, up the sideline. Still inbounds, into the end zone. Let's see.
Touchdown.
Touchdown, Portell.
The outside of running an out route. Davison on the play action, looking. He's going to go back to Lewis, and Lewis makes a cut, and Lewis still on his feet. Dorian Lewis is in for a touchdown. So Davison back to toss, and he's got all day. Makes one miss, and he's rolling. He's got a guy. Can he get it there? Davison to Luke Weissong.
We told you he
touchdown.
could spin that football, and that was a throw right there. I know he's got the wind at his back, but
shoot. They'll get one off, and it'll count high off the window.
Oh my gosh.
There's a long three.
Boom.
Bang. Martinez will beat the buzzer. Got it to go. His
Ford driving kick. Three's in the air. It's good. Nice pass on the nice block by Hernandez Crawford.
And Brown in the transition. But why not, Steve? Is Corbalan's going to go and he puts it away. And Corbalan wants to put it down. Here comes Las Cruces. Brown, you can't leave him alone. Put it down.
Gershon in transitions, 3-on-2. Gershon gonna go all the way. Whoa, Morgan will
that ball stolen. Jeremy Segura.
Forward dribble, spin cycle, up and under move. What a pass, wrap around pass.
Harris, Legate, the long bomb, 3 ball.
Well, you've asked specifically about Kellen, and I'm reluctant to be a little funny. But I'd say this to anyone. Remember the 2 buzzards sitting on the limb, and one's got his neck turned around looking at the other one and says, "Patience my ass, I'm going to kill something." Okay, as they survey the landscape.
I believe that was a plaque on your desk.
So,
yep, I do remember it.
I think that's a plaque on my desk. Yep. Exactly. And so I'm not really demeaning patience. You got to have it, I guess. But the bottom line is when it's there, take it. And if it's not there, sometime go rustle it up.
That was Jerry Jones and his awkward metaphor talking about Kellen Moore being a candidate for the head coaching position at Boise State, the Cowboys offensive coordinator. I get it. It makes sense. Go out there and take it. Don't wait around. Don't be a buzzard. But at least the mosquito wasn't involved in this conversation. But Jerry Jones asked about Kellen Moore, who is one of the 2 high-profile names right now for the Boise State coaching position. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM AM 610, the Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by Ned James, got Micah, Josh, Alden somewhere around there, holding it down on ProView Networks. So on 103.5 The Fan, his weekly radio hit, Jerry Jones addressed the situation. He also added in this quote on Kellen Moore, he's certainly unique for the job there at Boise State because of his great career there. He's unique to us because he knows the players so well, played with them, and he's unique because of his relationship with Dak and, frankly, now his relationship with Andy Dalton. He fits real good with us right now. So the first part of that quote was, Jerry's not too keen on Kellen Moore moving on to this position, but then he added, you got to go out there and take it. It's very intriguing thinking of that transition, Kellen Moore and his job as offensive coordinator to then taking over an entire program at Boise State. It makes a ton of sense why Kellen Moore would be interested. That's, of course, that's his alma mater, but these opportunities don't come around for a lot of guys to get a chance to be a head coach. What do you think about the transition? I think at least PR-wise, it would be a home run hire for Boise State. They continue the tradition of keeping it in the family, guys that have a tie to that program. But then Kellen Moore bringing that NFL experience to go with his college resume. Now it's a whole different world when you guys talk about recruiting and then managing a roster of 125 student athletes. But I do think that he is probably number 1 on their list right now.
Yeah, you would think because he's an alumni that he's pretty high on their list of coaching candidates. You always want experience. You always want people who you believe can sustain something that's been built up, and it's been built up really well. You don't want on-the-job training for a lot of things, which a younger coach will bring, a younger head coach would bring. I think Kellen Moore would be an excellent candidate. I mean, he's a young, rising talent. But at the same time, I can understand trying to go with maybe a more seasoned coach who understands the limitations that a program like Boise State has, but also the opportunities that it brings for success, and can work with that. Some guys aren't really necessarily prepared to do those things. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. I know Jerry's, he's probably playing a little, poker with the media as far as what his relationship with Kellen Moore is and how valuable he is to the Dallas Cowboy organization. There's only one person that's valuable to the Dallas Cowboy organization, and that's Jerry. In his mind, but he has to sell it to the media that there's someone else that also works for his organization and that he believes plays an important role. And he starts bringing up just exactly what Kellen Moore does for that organization. But at the same time, he knows that, guys are in the business to kind of grow. And I think this is a time where Kellen may feel like he can grow as far as being a coach by being a head coach and being a CEO and taking on some of those responsibilities and seeing his alma mater grow in a way that he's comfortable with. And we'll see what happens. We'll see if the university goes in that direction. But it seems like it's a slam dunk that he would be the front runner. But you never know. You never know what direction these universities go in when it comes to taking over. I mean, you become a CEO now. You become, you have to run a major business entity within the university when you're taking over these college football and college basketball programs. So is Kellen Moore ready for it? We'll see. We'll see. Yep. We don't know yet. I don't know.
And there's two names that have really surfaced since Brian Harsin took the job at Auburn. It's Kellen Moore, and then it's Andy Avalos, who's a defensive coordinator at Oregon right now, played linebacker, came up a little bit too in the coaching ranks at Boise State. So the formula has worked, and Boise State is built. And it's just about keeping that brand going, as you mentioned, Ned, realizing that you can cash in, can still win at a high level at Boise State, because it's not easy to go right in there and pick up right where someone left off. So, while you look at some of these coaches like Brian Harsin, he didn't have to come in and build something. It's also easy to go in somewhere and have it all fall apart and you not live up to expectations. So this isn't one where you come in, all right, you'll take your lumps, we'll see what happens. No, it's just pick up where the last guy left off. Yeah.
And Boise, that's always been interesting. My opinion of Boise, JJ, and it's because I'm old and I'm a curmudgeon, and you have to try to forgive me because Boise, in my eyes, I always go back to the way I always remember Boise from way back when. And that's what happens when you get old. You reminisce back to the old days. And Boise was never the Boise that we see now. And I was gone for a while in the pro ranks. And so I kind of followed it, but I really didn't follow it, lost kind of track. And then all of a sudden they burst onto the scene. In my opinion, especially for this region of the country, there needs to be a shift. There needs to be a change. And I know people are going to disagree with me, and I don't care, but I'm going to say it anyway. I think Boise, I could care less if Boise left. When Harsin made that comment, I thought, oh, okay, let him go. I mean, it's Idaho. Who wants to go to Idaho anyway? And then, other than the potatoes, I love the mashed potatoes in Idaho. It's just amazing how potatoes taste when you're in Idaho. But other than that, who wants to go to Idaho? And for me, this mountain region is ruled by only one team. Only one team has the national exposure, in my opinion, in this region, and that's BYU when it comes to football. Football, BYU, and I think Utah needs to come back into the Mountain West or the old West. Put the WAC together. I know they're in the Pac-12. I get that. I get the whole Pac-12. But they're really not. I don't think they're really relevant in the Pac-12.
That's why you don't want Boise State. Now, we have to take this break because we got Hunter Green coming up next. Okay. But as frustrating as Brian Harsin made it out to be being in the Mountain West, their fan base thinks they're so much better. The conference does need them. And speaking of Boise State, the Lobos had a harsh wake-up call last week in Boise. How will they respond against Nevada? We'll talk to Hunter Green, former player, Lobo analyst on the UNM Sports Radio Network. We're talking Lobo basketball next. The opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Busy commuter night.
Pavia's looking, and he's got a guy wide open, and it's Gay, and he's going to walk into the end zone. But he did a good job with it. First and goal, it's Chavez to the middle, and Chavez stops.
Stevens in motion. On the handoff to Mitchell. Look out! Oh, see you later. Take it to the house fly. Cardinals fly. To the other side, provide some protection. And off to Webskowski again. Look out! See you later. Good night. Touchdown, Webskowski. Day. He's going to fire to the end zone. Open man! Touchdown! Wildcat! Not a defender inside.
A little bit.
Webskowski on the sideline! Hasta mañana! He's off to the races! Touchdown, Clovis!
Albuquerque this afternoon.
34-24. Late in the third. How about this run? Nice play. Dickerman, he's still on his feet. Touchdown, Wolverine.
Exactly what they want to get yards.
He's going to go for it. He's got a guy towards the end zone. It's Krebs. Touchdown. What a play.
Long here for the Storm. Handoff to, we're going to fake the handoff, excuse me. Davidson on the deep ball. He's got some space, and it's caught! Still on his feet. Touchdown, Storm! Wow. Santa Maria!
And so they'll send one deep and returnable at the 2. Usually Volcano do either a reverse or a fake reverse, and here it is a reverse. And a move to the outside. There is a lane. Look out! Shot out of a cannon. Rodriguez is going to take it all the way.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. One great location.
Lobo men's basketball team will be bringing in the new year in Lubbock. They are set to host their next Mountain West Conference series as Steve Alford and the Nevada Wolfpack will be in town Thursday and Saturday, home away from home for Lobo men's basketball. And that's the story for the Division I teams here in the state of New Mexico. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck, joined by our quarterback, Ned James, this morning. And our next guest is someone that Ned said, you needed a bucket, you get him the ball in the corner. All day, every day, he'll get it done. He's the analyst, former player, Hunter Green, joins us now. Hunter, how are you, man?
I'm doing well, JJ. Good morning. Good morning, Ned.
What's up, Hunter? How you doing, brother?
I'm good.
Good, man.
Well, Hunter, it's been two extremes for this Lobo men's basketball team this season. You know, what they did in Texas just to get some games in, and then going to Boise State. As you sit here right now, you know, how do you take in what you've seen through 5 games?
Well, let's just be honest. We're not very good. We're a work in progress. A lot like the Lobo football team and Danny Gonzalez's coaching staff, and trying to get these guys developed. I think right now, looking at the Mountain West Conference, you got Boise State, San Diego State kind of sitting at the top, and everybody's in a race to develop to catch up with those guys. So there's just so much to work on, and I think coaches talked about it. And that's really where they're at, just trying to develop in every aspect, offense. I mean, little things like, you know, free throws, right? Defense, it just, you know, blocking out, rebounding, I mean, just the basics of the basics. And so, and it's not just New Mexico. I think there's, again, like I said, outside of Boise State, San Diego State, all the other teams are in a race to develop. I mean, you got Nevada, who is in the same mode. They may be a step ahead of us right now because I think they've gotten probably, 9 games under their belt, whereas the Lobos have played maybe 5. I think but there are some bright spots. I mean, you see some guys that, what they can bring, off the bounce. Saquon, Singleton is good at that. Manuel has a nice little jump hook. Now, it's not to say these guys can't develop. I mean, Manuel has a lot more development to do, but he's got one go-to move, right? That jump hook. Saquon off the dribble, he can get to the rim and get fouled, but he's got to convert. He's got to make free throws. So, I mean, everyone's got a little something. It's just they all need to develop in every aspect of their game. So.
Talking with Hunter Greene, he joins us now in the opening drive. And Hunter, to that point, what have you seen this team try to do early on? Like, what do you think they're trying to be on the court?
That's a good question because I try to figure out kind of what their identity is going to be. And I think early on, Coach talked about, we're just going to focus on getting it inside. Well, they struggled with kind of feeding the post and getting it inside. And then, of course, when you get it inside, can the guys convert? Matos is a physically huge guy, great looking athlete, but his skill level is just some up and unders and some ability to stick that 10 to 15 footers. So yeah, that's a good question, JJ. I don't know what their identity is. I don't know what they're trying to become. To be honest with you, I think Coach really harps on ASICs, right? Defense and rebounding, right? Every team. I think offense can win them, but yeah, doing it. And grateful that we have a basketball season because we easily could not even have a basketball season, speaking of New Mexico, because we don't have a home court.
Yeah. Hunter, this is Ned. Hey, one of the questions I had just in watching this team, I'm trying to figure out where they're going to get the scoring from. When you've watched these guys and you know their game and you've seen their game, who do you think and where do you think they're going to get the scoring from as this
Still, brother, because I can't barely hear you.
Okay. I was just asking where the scoring is going to come from.
Yeah, I got it. I think it's going to be collective. I think, if they can turn them over, if they can get better defensively, get points off of defense, if they can get, I think transition. I really don't see them being a half-court team just because they're not really good jump shooters, and we don't have a really, other than Manuel with that right jump hook, a post game yet. I mean, so I think you're going to have to do it a little bit in a lot of ways, right? This free throw line, defensive runs, and getting some open court looks. And I'd love to see them get some back doors and work on that part of their game. But yeah, that's a good question. Where are they going to get the offensive scoring from? Because when you look at the last 2 games, I think they've had, 52 and 53 points. That's just not going to cut it. I mean, in conference play, and again, like I said, Nevada's not that far ahead of them. They're still in that work in progress mode as well. But you got to think that that's one thing that Alfred's going to bring is he's going to bring defense and rebounding tomorrow night. So.
Talking with Hunter Greene, analyst, UNM Sports Radio Network. Lobos hosting Nevada Thursday and Saturday. And the point on development, there's still a lot of work to be done. It's early in the season, right? We're 2 days away from 2021, but just with the way it's been, it's so early for this basketball team. When it comes to shooting, is it something that you either have it or you don't? Or how do you go about building confidence in some of the other players?
I think all skills are things that you have to practice. It's hours in the gym. It's it's different type of game today from when I played. I mean, I was a gym rat. I mean, you just had to be in the gym. You had to be putting up shots every day, working on your handles, playing one-on-one. I mean, those type of things where kids aren't doing that, not unless it's an organized practice, it's tough. You know, I mean, so it's taken them longer. But the ones that figured it out at a young age are having success now, of course. So it's just practice, repetition, to be honest with you, JJ. And in free throws, again, practice and then the mentality. So, some coaches have a philosophy on free throw shooting is like you don't want to really focus on it, make it this kind of it becomes a psychological issue if you really focus on it too much. But I think what you got to do, and you got to practice it, but you got to practice it with consequences, right? So if guys are missing in practice, you got to put them in almost a game situation if you can. And then there's got to be a consequence. If guys miss, they got to run or they got to do push-ups or whatever. So, I think that it kind of brings about a sense of urgency on how important free throws are, just like taking care of the basketball. So, I mean, those things are all practice, and that's repetition, JJ.
Well, Hunter, you talked about the practice in terms of ability, getting into the gym, got to put in the extra time whenever it's there. Seemingly can't quite do that at this point in time. But more and more coaches are going through it. And now that coaches can reach out to someone else, say, hey, how are you handling this? What did you do in this situation? How do you think you would handle a time like this as a player when you can't do what you're accustomed to? You're limited in any of the work you can do. How would you have handled it?
Well, I think they get access to a gym. I mean, so for me, I'd be, putting up shots, doing some one-on-one. And I think they do have the ability to break up in groups and do, I think it's up to 5 players at one time. So they can do some 2-on-2 drills. They can do just shooting drills, things like that. I mean, working on moves, especially the bigs, going over, your right shoulder, your left shoulder, up and under, just power moves to the basket. I mean, things like that you can do. I mean, they got access. They have access to a gym. They can do those things. So, that's what I would be doing, no question. I mean, and then, of course, trying to create game situations when you can bring everyone together is what the coaches are trying to do. And there's so much that they're trying to teach, from just offense to just out-of-bound plays, situational basketball, just whatever. I mean, lining up for a free throw, who's going to take it out. I mean, just basic stuff, and it's a lot. And it can almost be overwhelming. And I think, as Coach mentioned in his presser yesterday, that they're not really focused on Nevada right now. I mean, they've been focused on them, just getting better at the little things.
Hunter, do you think it's something that coaches can make a player do as far as getting into the gym and getting up shots, or does it have to come from the individual? That's why I was asking who the scoring was going to come from. Because there's someone you see.
Yeah, some guys have it naturally, Ned. Yeah. I think, just have a natural instinct to score the basketball. And some guys have to work at it and get, and have an offense that can help them. I think this team needs an offense. It's very difficult the way they're running their sets, kind of a triangle, and guys are trying to create their own shots when they probably haven't had to in the past, or maybe they're playing against, for instance, like Boise State was long. And so for our guys, like Rob Brown really struggled trying to create offense for himself down low because of his size and the length of Boise State. So what do you do in that instance? You got to have an offense where you can allow him to kind of pull those bigs away from the rim and maybe get him moving towards or slashing towards the rim. So, it's a little bit of both. I think it's the offense the coaches put in place, and then it's the individual player to develop his skill set offensively.
Gotcha. That's the answer I was looking for.
Yeah. Yes. So, no, I mean, it's not, it's right now, and it's tough, as a Lobo fan, because you want so much for them. And I think that's the passion that the Lobo fans have, is that we care. We care about our Lobo basketball team. And I think we saw this with Lobo football. the effort that they made just moving out of the state and being in this bubble, man, those last 2 victories felt good, you know, and I kind of think that's going to be the way of basketball this year because, you know, just try to enjoy and appreciate the little victories that we have and that we can achieve. And we'll have some success this year, you know, maybe not as much as we'd like, but we'll have some. And I think just, man, be thankful that we have a team because honestly, you know, this is a struggle and these guys are all sacrificing coaches, their wives, the team, you know, it's a sacrifice.
Absolutely. Get the positives when you can out of the situation. Pre-game starts at 6:30 tomorrow. Tip-off at 7. You can hear Hunter Green alongside Robert Portnoy on the UNM Sports Radio Network. Hunter, always appreciate the time, man. Stay safe and a happy holidays to you and your family.
Okay. Happy New Year, guys. Enjoy. Thanks.
Happy holidays, Hunter.
All right.
That is former Lobo Hunter Green joining us. A lot of good stuff there, especially when it comes to the student athlete, the work that they have to put in to be able to take that next step. We'll get your reactions and more. It's Opening Drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Safeguard against germs this cold and flu season.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number 1. Cover it with green stuff, 1 scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
I'll just get a little closer.
Oh, instead it's a gorgeous pass.
Here's what he'll
just shoot it.
He's going to go all the way.
He's gonna fire at the buzzer and he hits.
Great pass, Hadbury, and thank you very much.
Tie in the district. Inside, fly, Eagles.
Chavez uses some athleticism. And then Morris down low, able to finish. You called it, Steve, in 10 seconds. And look at this, stripped, stolen Watson. Christian Lucero beats the buzzer. Here's Ian Chavez, the sharpshooter. Got it.
Couldn't have said that any better. He answered the question. He
On
got
a
another
steal
one.
at the buzzer. Back to back for Chavez.
Medina from the volleyball lines. Medina wants another one from deep. He wants 10. Give him 10!
Lewis finds Watson. He's going to finish. One-handed slam. Vista, but just all the different scenarios we could see potentially play out ahead of the state tournament. Oh! Ho, ho, ho!
Moreno extra pass. And Watson. Out with it, Gallegos, he's going to run all the way. Window, yes! Able to get out of it. How did he find Battle? It's to Cunningham, and it...
I mean, Ramos' hand.
Ramos puts it up, beats the buzzer!
Boy,
and Jefferson wide open, getting
Jefferson to Daraji. Into Watson with the jam.
Another steal by Dovino Lovato, and here comes Agbaiosi. Lob, two-hand hammer. You knew that was coming. Out the lob, tagged by Osi, the one-hand hammer.
Put up. And a drive from Parham.
Creates space. He gives it off to Rivas for the three, and he buries it.
Coming in soon. Double pick set for Avalos. Goes to the right. Avalos puts it up high. Window. Scores it as foul. Right here by Lewis all the way. Coast to coast. And finish.
What a...
Around the screen against White. Step back, it's blocked. JB with the block.
In transition, ahead to hit on for the two-hand hammer.
Minutes to go. They've got a shot. They have a chance, and it's put up, and it's good. What a three that is by Jalen.
Puts it up.
Rebound Cowboys. Right side David Hall. Thank you very much. Here come the Cowboys. Domina Lovato lays it up. Missed it. Hey, how about it? Thank you, Lusses. Thank you very much, Raquan Mitchell. Clock at 6. They get it. Barnes Tompkins fires. Yes! Pass up court. This for the win. Blocked by DJ Bustos. Cowboys win. Cowboys win.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional
Appreciate the time from Hunter Green joining us. You can hear him tomorrow alongside Robert Portnoy on the UNM Sports Radio Network over on News Radio KKOB. It's 6:30 pregame, 7 o'clock tip-off as the Lobo men's basketball team begins their series with Nevada. Here on the Esports Animal tomorrow, it's a 3 p.m. tip-off, so 2:30 pregame for women's basketball as they're at Nevada. They'll play Thursday and Saturday. Really excited because Nikki Hekaratha-Lobato will be joining me for the first time this season, so really excited about that on the broadcast. So we'll have you covered, and it's a Mariners schedule, but both games are separate, so that's going to be great for Lobo basketball fans tomorrow. Of course, having the 3 o'clock tip-off for the women and the 7 o'clock tip-off for the men. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. It's JJ Buck, joined by Ned James, Michael holding it down at Radio Ranch, Alden and Josh on the Pro View side. Getting it from the basketball guy, the dude that's been there, done that. You know, it helps, provide some clarity, maybe bring a little, just a little, not a lot, a little sense of calm to the Lobo basketball fan, because everyone understands the expectations, but still there's a lot of work to be done. And a lot of what Hunter said is what we've been talking about, is just trying to pare it down, keep it simple during this time. And I got an email from John, and this is JJ at 610canml.com. He says, since you're pretty much restricted on practice and traveling out of state, I'd focus on keeping it basic and executing the fundamentals. Then as the season goes on, implement more as your team finds itself. And it really feels like where Lobo basketball is right now. You just want to get these guys locked in on the foundation of what you want, of how you want them to play on the court, and then start building off that. And this is something that should have been done earlier, but this season, where the Lobos are at versus some of the other teams, it doesn't quite match up. Because usually, when you'd start Mountain West play, you'd have 10 or 13 games under your belt. In this case, it was 3. 2 were against non-Division I opponents, and the one Division I opponent you played, you were just more talented then, so you really weren't tested. And then it's boom, here's one of the 2 best teams in the Mountain West. Have fun.
I really like how Hunter brought it together with football. He, because I believe, and this is where I think the football team looked so good towards the end of the season, and who knows why they looked better. I mean, it could eventually be that they, just developed and found the players or what have you. But a lot of the routine and the discipline comes from doing the same things repeatedly over and over again in a disciplined environment. And they have all those things when you are away. You don't have that when you're in town because you have the distractions of being at home. It's like when you're in the NFL and you have a home game. Guys really like to go on the road because a lot of times they get more sleep because the kids aren't there. They get to sleep in the hotel room by themselves. They don't have the family. They don't have people bugging them for tickets. They don't have, so when the football team was away in Las Vegas, it's essentially training camp for 2 months. You're in a controlled environment. They have access to the players around the clock. They don't have to worry about girlfriends. They don't have to worry about them, in the streets of Albuquerque or what have you. They have them in that controlled environment. You have an advantage that way. Basketball is the same way. They're in a controlled environment. They have those guys around the clock. They don't have to worry about the guys running out in the streets of Albuquerque. So they should have an advantage. So when you spun it with the positive, when you were talking about at the end of Hunter's segment, the positivity about the development and those kind of things, sure, you're going to get better because you're just around the kids more. The proximity builds closeness. It builds the unity. It builds the discipline. It builds the respect and the trust of these guys because you're forced to. And that's what training camp does when NFL teams take their training camps on the road. You build camaraderie with your teammates, and so that's what you said you liked how Brown was able to talk about trying to get this team to stay positive despite losing to Boise. I think eventually this team's going to get better because they're together all the time. Like Hunter said, they got to get up shots. They've got access to a gym. I was being sarcastic about them, staying in the trailer park at Alamogordo shooting on asphalt courts. Well, they've got a better world down there in Lubbock, and there's got to be a
Big 5 sporting goods somewhere too. If you just need to get a couple rims for the parking lot, and at this point in time, do what you got to do to be able to get some shots up and just shoot some free throws. There's a lot there because it really could go either way. If the struggles continue, then you're going to get to a point where you're like, I'm sick of these dudes. I do not want to be around these guys anymore. So it's definitely a tough balance of understanding the learning curve, the process you're going to get through. But it's early. And so we're not quite there yet of thinking it's all going to fall apart. It's just 2 games into Mountain West play for this Lobo basketball team. We'll continue to take your thoughts. Quan's Auto Care hotline is 2460610. You can email the show, jj@610canml.com. Full house once again. We got our quarterback, Ned James. We got Micah. He's down here for me. I don't know where he is for you guys. We got Josh and Alden over here on the ProView Network side. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
Second field goal, he's got 4 points. Watson, though, goes all the way.
Hit the deck, I should say. Cordova tried to throw it off. Romero, a 3 for...
Set out to Jude Tapia. Nice move behind his back. It's a good... Here's Ramos, step back, high arcing, 20!
Well, he needed to get his legs back under him.
Ooh, a little kick.
They leave it one more time to Hammer.
Look at this, they're not going to score again. Look at this.
Up top! Yes, and the finish for Akbayosi. Saved into the hands of Riak, ahead of the pack to Davina Lovato. Up high, down hard for Akbayosi. Out of the corner, Casals, the 3-0, Katenge! Let me clean up the mess! He dropped out of the rafters for that one, Steve.
Dorian over. Did he get in?
Yeah, they got in. He got
Touchdown, Dorian Lewis.
in. 19 seconds to play. Benavides looking, still looking up the middle. It's intercepted. It's picked off by Freddie Anaya, and Roswell's season will end perfect.
Second quarter, 2nd and 4 for Socorro at the whole 44-yard line. McDaniel trying, good block by Hicks. First down and more, 30, 25, 20. McDaniel might be gone. Touchdown.
Wow.
Touchdown for Michael McDaniel.
It's 40 seconds this year. It's not like 25 like it used to be.
He laterals it back. What a play by Hightower. Pitch.
Looked like somebody moved a little bit early. Hicks, the play fake double move. He's got his receiver wide open. Caught. One man to beat. Touchdown. Touchdown to number 17, Nathaniel.
Third and 6. Big defensive play coming up here. Little trickery to Reese. See you later. Touchdown. They went for the deep ball to Reese.
To the right, single receiver split to the left. Play fake, head up off the middle, got some room. 50, 45, 40, has one man to beat. 30, 25, 10, 5, touchdown. Touchdown, Hope.
Wow.
On a
Option again, he'll keep it. Now he'll pitch it. Comes out to the 30, 25, 20, up the sideline. Still inbounds into the end zone. Let's see.
Touchdown.
Touchdown. Portell.
sending a play action, looking. He's going to go back to Lewis, and Lewis makes a cut, and Lewis still on his feet. Dorian Lewis is in for a touchdown.
Finals Friday, New Year's Day, you get Alabama, Notre Dame, you get Clemson, Ohio State. But is the passion there? Do enough people care about the college football playoff? It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by our quarterback, Ned James. Got Micah holding it down at Radio Ranch, Alden, and Josh on the ProView side. So this is year 6 of the college football playoffs, and only 6 teams have won a game in the 6 years of the system. We get it. It's pretty evident. We know the premier power programs in college football. But does something need to change? Because the ratings are dropping a bit. Been there, done that. You look at Alabama being a 17-point favorite over Notre Dame in the college football semifinal on Friday. More people need to be interested in the game. And so I think it was a step in the right direction. However, if it's the same thing over and over and over again, people might start to tune out. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. But I think it needs to change. You need to find a way to get all of college football to care about the college football playoff, not just 4 teams every single year. If there happens to be a blowout, so be it. College basketball dominates March because of the NCAA tournament, not just because of the brackets that everyone gets to fill out. It's because everyone, whether or not you think you can win a national championship, is able to get a piece of that pie, has a rooting interest. And that is what college football is missing. You can still have bowl season and an expanded playoff, but they need to find a way to get everyone to care about these 2 games on Friday. We'll watch, we'll enjoy it, but the passion for college football is special because of the fan bases. And when you're not giving everyone a shot, you're not going to get everyone to care about the most important thing in college football, and that is winning a national championship.
Right, and it's driven through demographics. It's driven through regions. It's driven by television. You have to get people to watch that are in Southern California, Seattle, Washington, Austin, Texas, and you got to get people in Missoula, Montana to want to watch it. People west of the Mississippi River aren't going to watch entirely. There'll be some, because there's not someone representing this region. And that's, in my opinion, the bigger issue. Now, people can talk about how, the powers to be are in the South. Yes, it is. But the tradition of the football is all over America. The tradition of college football is American. And so you have to find a way to get all of America involved, and that's going to be determined by the region. Now, you make a great point, JJ, about adding 4 more teams. 8 teams would solve that issue. You would get someone from this region into that playoff mix if you had 8 teams. But you have to ensure that someone from this region is in there. You've got to get, and I know I said this the other day, and it maybe came off wrong, but to me, if you don't have SC, UCLA, Texas, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, maybe a Florida, those teams are what people really want to see, because those are traditional powers. And, maybe sneak in somebody from the Midwest every now and then. But the Notre Dames, everybody wants to see Notre Dame. But those are the types of games that you have to have. And those teams have to be formidable opponents. And they will be at some point. I mean, Nick Saban's not going to be buying players forever at Alabama. And the SEC salary cap is going to drop eventually at some point where everybody else can compete with it. But right now, they're doing it a little bit better. It means a little bit more in the Deep South, college football. But at the same time, you're right. They need to add more teams. But I think regionally, it's going to have, they're going to have to put something in there where you got to get these teams out of these different regions of the country if you want to get more of the American population to watch and care about these college games.
Yeah. This should be the biggest thing this weekend. It should be nipping at the heels of the NFL. The college football playoffs should be right there and should be matching anything we see out of the NFL. We know the NFL still runs the show. Even this season, I was reading an article this week that I think like 30 of the top 50 most watched things on TV this year have been NFL football games. But college football and their playoffs should be nipping at the heels of a Week 17 NFL slate. And that's not going to be the case. It's because you need to get more people involved. Now, the counterpoint to this will be, well, the games haven't been that competitive. 8 of the previous 12 semifinal games have been decided by 17 or more points. So it's not necessarily you're arguing for better football games. You're arguing for more interest, for more people to want to watch, for more people to care about the teams that play for a national championship. And that would be, give me a uniformed way of teams getting in. Like, don't give me this committee and rankings because all of them are arbitrary. You know, why is Ohio State that much better than USC when both of them at one point in time are like 4-0 and undefeated? And why we come in each year with preconceived notions of who's good and who's not, and those things carry over. Even when you try to say, hey, we're going to put out our college football playoff rankings at a different point in time, they always mirror what we think, you know, what the AP poll, what the coaches poll is. So I want a uniformed criteria. All right, you tell me, you give me 5 power conference champions. They know what they're playing for. You go out there and win your conference. I don't care if you have 1 or 2 losses. You win your conference, you get in. And then you can have your 2 wild card teams if there is a number 2 from the FCC that you want in, or a team that suffered an early loss, got better. And then you can throw the bone to the group of 5 and give them that 8 seed. But what it would do is it would get more people to care about the CFP. To your point, it would get people in Texas or Oklahoma, in the Big 12 region, a reason to watch. It would give the West, a team from the Pac-12, an opportunity. So I don't think 4 has necessarily been great because, oh, we get a true champion. What I want to see is everyone caring about the national championship, because right now, not everyone cares about the national championship in college football.
Now, I was being sarcastic about the SEC salary cap, but then again, I wasn't, because I'm telling you, the money that is involved in how these teams are formed in the South and the monies that are involved in some of these other places, it just doesn't match up. And the NFL has a salary cap. They have divisions. You play opponents. You know, everybody has a chance. That's why regionally it sells. It sells in all parts of America. That's the problem with college football. You don't have every team in the same. You don't have 308 divisions where people are all playing each other. And so that's why the NFL sells better than college athletics. Now, I believe that you should regionally. I'm always saying USC should always be in the playoffs, or UCLA, or a West Coast team, or Texas.
You still got to win. You still got to win the game.
You got to win. You got to win. But
you can't look to an Oregon team that was the number 2 team in the other division, even if you want to have yourself that. So you still would have to win to get in. This isn't making it easier, but what I think college football needs is more people to care about what should be the second biggest story this weekend, and that is the college football playoffs. 2460610 is the Quan's Auto Care hotline. Tommy, you're on the opening drive. What's up, Tommy? How you doing?
Hey, what's up, guys? Tom the Truth back at you. Hope both you and Dad had a great Christmas and everything. Absolutely, they need to add 4 more teams to generate some interest. I think the coronavirus has a lot to do with it. People are thinking about just staying healthy. That has a lot to do with the ratings going down, maybe to a certain extent. But it hasn't affected NFL football. You know, football, that's still king. But I think just having those, they got to figure out a way to get 4 more teams in to generate interest from fans that the teams wouldn't be in the playoffs normally. And I always hear what can never happen. You know, there can never be any upsets. It really drives me nuts when I hear that, because Boise State beat Oklahoma a few years ago. There's upsets do happen in the game. Any given Saturday, an upset can happen. But I do think we're getting closer to having that, because what's happening this year and the interest going down, maybe we'll urge them to add those 4 extra teams to figure out a way to get it done. And I'm all for 8 teams in the playoffs, and it would generate more interest, more money, and I guess the different people in different regions would be more interested in just seeing the same old Alabama and Clemson and all those other guys in there. They're always in there all the time.
Got you, Tommy. Appreciate the phone call this morning, man. You stay safe as well. He got in 2460610. I get it. Not Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State. They're good, and they're there for a reason. But you need more people to care about your product, and that's waned a little bit in the Final Four. It was a step, but it still can be better for college football as a whole. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
More NFL games than anyone else, period.
So Davison back to toss it. He's got all day.
Shoot. They'll get one off, and it'll count high off the window.
Oh my gosh.
There's the long three.
Boom.
Bang. Martinez will beat the buzzer. Got it to go. His
Ford driving kick. Three's in the air. It's good. Nice pass on the nice block by Hernandez Crawford.
And Brown in the transition. But why not, Steve? Is Corbalon's going to go when he puts it away? And Corbalon wants to put it down. But here comes Massachusetts. Brown, you can't leave him alone. Put it down.
Gershon in transitions, 3-on-2. Gershon going to go all the way. Whoa, Morgan.
The New Mexico High School Coaches Association, established in 1941, is an organization of New Mexico's best and most professional interscholastic coaches. Coaches across work daily to help our student athletes excel in the classroom, on the field of play, and in our communities. Students that participate in interscholastic activities attain higher grades, higher graduation rates, and higher wages. Responsible for the North-South All-Star Games, statewide Coaches Award Program, and providing multiple professional development opportunities for New Mexico's coaches. Be a great coach by coaching beyond the game.
Evans has that ball stolen. Jeremy Segura.
Forward dribble, spin cycle, up and under move. What a pass, wrap around pass.
Harris, Legate, the long bomb, 3-ball.
Oh, great steal by Quinteros, lays it up and scores.
The whole little jump step in the... And look out, here comes Agbayosi. Crawford set. That's blocked. Lansing says, get that out of here. Sister to sister, Marianne Lansing's going to go all the way. Turnaround. Ramos, pump fake, everyone bites. Ramos hits.
Jackson loses it. Jalen Bond back, LAU, put it down. delicious. How about it?
Lovato driving. They're going to kill
Trying to get people to care. It's a challenge. Whether it's college football playoff, do you need big name teams to always be good in big cities? Do the Knicks have to be good? Does it always have to be the Lakers? Does it have to be Dodgers? Yes, you need name brands, but you also need everyone to buy in, to want to see what you're selling them, because yes, athletics still a business, and you're trying to sell your product. The college football semifinals on Friday. Questions of, it was a step forward, but is it enough? Does it generate enough interest in teams playing for the college football national championship? It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by Ned James, our quarterback this morning. Josh holding it down over there at ProView Networks. I'm sure the other guys are somewhere. They just let him sit there in front of his Chargers flag, and he can wallow in his season. However, credit to y'all. He kicked the game-winning field goal, beat the Denver Broncos, did not collapse on Sunday. Like I said, take the victories, enjoy them when you can. Of course, Michael holding it down at Radio Ranch. Got this email from Jason, JJ at 610knml.com, said, interesting. The building is more famous than the team. The team has been bad, and yet the league moves on. The sports world continues, and the team stinks. Aren't those the arguments a Lobo fan makes when they believe that UNM needs to be great? On to my Aggies. Bad loss, yes. More injuries, even worse. The Aggies lost their best offensive player, Jabari Rice, and their best defensive player, Clayton Henry, and that is a recipe for disaster. The hope is that the other players step up. Crimsonally, Jason. Things always do move on. He's right about that. You do need your marquee teams at time to be relevant. I think the NBA has moved well past New York and Madison Square Garden meaning more than the New York Knicks to the game of basketball now, but it also has that same effect as, say, Boise State in the Mountain West Conference. I know, Ned, you're sitting there saying, fine, you want to take your ball and leave, then leave. Go see how it is on the other side. And BYU was in a different position because they have a national following kind of regardless when they left the Mountain West Conference, but they still need each other. I think now that Brian Harsin, head football coach at Auburn, he gets his wish. He's going to see that there's no slip-ups that you can have in the SEC when you're trying to run down Nick Saban in Alabama, and the fan base is not going to be too keen on you struggling at all at Auburn because they just fired a head coach that had a winning record, but he didn't win enough, and so they gave him $21 million to go away. But the Mountain West needs Boise State. I think that calms down. They're still looking for a new athletic director, bring in a new coach. They'll settle in. I think the conference as a whole, it's more about branding and messaging. I think the AAC has just done a really good job of that, as presenting themselves as that next conference, and they've had it. 5 of the last 6 group of 5 representatives from the AAC. So they have UCF, they have Cincinnati this season, and now, in the Mountain West Conference, it's what we'll continue to talk about. It's who else is going along for the ride. It's been Boise State and San Diego State. We finally saw San Jose State rise to the level, and this is a good segue into looking at what we saw in this conference, because 7 of the 12 coaches this year were either in their first or second years. One of those cases, Hawaii, it's because they were successful last season, and Nikola Rolovich took the job at Washington State. But the rest of them were programs realizing they needed to change, and they had to rebuild. So there's a lot of work for the Mountain West to do. So what did you think of some of the first-year coaches? Well, there's an article in CBS Sports earlier this week ranking all the first-year coaches in college football, and it's good to get an outside perspective, a voice from someone else following the game and the outside looking in to the Mountain West, because I know myself, we're always going to favor Mountain West teams, pull for the conference or region to be successful. let's look at some of the grades in the CBS Sports article. Todd Graham, 5-4 at Hawaii following their win over Houston in the New Mexico Bowl in Frisco. Kirky, they graded the hire as a B. He transitioned to a new quarterback, Chevin Cordero, who did play some last year, but it was Cole McDonald's team. The offense was not necessarily the run and shoot that you'd expect from Hawaii. They integrated more of a zone read system, but they gave him a B. And I think that's a fair grade for Todd Graham coming in, having Hawaii compete in the season on a high note. Move down to San Diego State, Brady Hoke, C+. So it's the return of Brady Hoke, who was there at the beginning of this decade at San Diego State, and started to put the ball in motion, and then we saw Rocky Long take over. They give Brady Hoke a C+ for his performance this year. San Diego State going 4-4. Said Hoke returned to the sideline with a 4-4 record at a program that helped springboard him to the Michigan job. That's what he took over, and then Rocky got the head coaching position of the Aztecs, and it came to a disappointing end with a loss to BYU. The Aztecs should expect more than a 500 record. And there we go with expectations. That's what Rocky helped build at San Diego State, and now Danny and Rocky are trying to do here in New Mexico. Kalen DeBoer, first-year head coach at Fresno State, they gave him a C. 3-1 start gave the Bulldogs fans hope, but back-to-back losses to Nevada and New Mexico left a sour taste in their mouth, and that's what it does. Those final game, 1 or 2 games at the end of the season can really mean a lot going into next season. The biggest question mark is still at Colorado State and Steve Addazio. Year 1, there was a lot of stuff happening off the field. What was going on? Is he not welcoming players in? Has he burnt a lot of bridges previous places? They gave him a D- at Colorado State. Now, they had a lot of challenges. They had games canceled. Their first game of the season with the Lobos could not be played because at that point in time, New Mexico just didn't know what they were going to do. Didn't know where they were going to practice, didn't know where they were going back to. So they finished the season 1-3 up there in Fort Collins, and it says a 1-win season and off-season controversy made things very difficult for the former Boston College coach. Better luck next year, indeed. And how about their thoughts on Danny Gonzalez and the Lobos? Even a B- for Danny Gonzalez. A tough go in year 1, but back-to-back wins over Wyoming and Fresno State give the Lobos hope for the future. Lack of a normal offseason likely had a lot to do with the early season struggles. So positive from the outside looking in on those covering college football on what the Lobos were able to do. And I think that's a fair assessment of the first-year coaches we've seen in the Mountain West. Ned, what are some of your thoughts on the new guys that have taken over in this league?
Well, it's a fair assessment. I think he's given out grades during the throes of a global pandemic, so you really got to give it got to treat it with a little bit of grain of salt, because he doesn't really. It's not really fair in a lot of respects, because the coaches are dealing with even the off-field issues and just having to not know whether you're going to play or not. I mean, that always, until you don't know until you have your full complement of practices and being able to put in your system based on being at home or being in your own stadiums and not having to worry about kids being quarantined and those kind of things. So I don't really give it a whole lot of weight, but it's okay. But the one thing about the Mountain West Conference, and I know people think that this is kind of crazy, I still don't think that the Mountain West Conference will ever get recognition until we can get BYU back. And if people say, it's never going to happen, they've got a national brand, they're going to stay independent the rest of their lives. In the long game, I think the Mountain West still has a lot to offer college football because of the region, because of the schools we could probably bring back into the fold in the long game. I still don't believe Utah and BYU belong independent and in the Pac-12. I just don't. I just think they're in this mountain area. I think they can make this mountain area a prominent area for college football like it was in the past. And I know people thinking, oh, Ned, you're living in the ancient times. It's never going to go back to that. It's going to always go where everybody's independent at some point. But no, I think it can kind of bring itself back around if you can bring those teams back into the fold in the long game. I know everybody's thinking, oh, Ned, that's never going to happen in the Pac-12. They're never going to leave. Well, Arizona State used to be in the WAC with UNM and some other schools. Things can change, things can develop over time, and until this region becomes a little bit stronger with teams like the Utah schools, I think it's going to be a little bit difficult for this Group of Five conference to get the recognition it deserves, because everybody's going to look at BYU as being a part of this conference. They're always, whenever people talk about BYU, they don't see them as independent. I know it's just been recently that they've been independent, but they think of them, they think of the WAC, they think of the West, and so until they become a part of a group, they're not going to be Notre Dame. Notre Dame's got the Catholic Church, and that's worldwide. So they're not going to get the same kind of recognition that Notre Dame gets, being a school of religion. But I do think they can bring some, some credibility to the West if they were to join into a conference, because I think we need to have some sort of credibility with the West. With regions, and I think the Mountain region with those teams would have that credibility. We got great coaches in the West. It's like when I talked to Andy Reid and I talked to Brian Billick and some of those guys in the pros, I said, hey, we taught, it's like Junior Soprano in The Sopranos when he talked about the Italians and food. He said the Italians taught the world how to eat because of their delicacy and the way they cook. Well, the West taught the world how to pass the football. The WAC and BYU, San Diego State, Utah, some of those guys back in the 80s, we taught the rest of the college football how to throw the ball. And so I think we have that reputation around the country as the Wild Wild West, as the place where things are invented and discovered. And so I think BYU and Utah and some of those schools that were in this region and in this conference before really gave that credibility to the West. Even though you hear about the SEC and all the grandeur of Southeastern Conference football and Alabama and all that, the USCs and those kind of schools traditionally in the West in particular have a lot to offer college football.
They do. There's opportunity. I will say Utah is never coming back. I'm sorry, Ned. Utah is not coming back to the Mountain West. There's a slight chance maybe you could work out something with BYU, but then who would be a school to join them? Because you're a 12-team football league, so you'd still want to at least have some balance division-wise with BYU. And who else? As long as they remain independent in football, there's always going to be that slight chance. But it's still about building, to your point, maximizing what you have. And I think in such an odd, uncertain year, the Mountain West was able to take a good step forward. And if San Jose State can build off what they did this year, going 7-0, winning a Mountain West championship, and that bodes well for everyone else. As all those ships start rising, that tide will follow the conference. We'll get some more recognition. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
Don't sacrifice quality of flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.
Protection. Deep ball. Erickson's open. Touchdown, Monarchs.
Second and 10. Smith looking, and he's going to fire over the middle, and he's got his guy, and it's another big play. Walking away for a touchdown, Tristan Altier.
They're going to hand it off to Chavez. Chavez breaking tackles, look out! Chavez up the sideline, stays in bounds, touchdown, Volcanovic!
That replay,
I got you.
Measurement. I mean,
Smith's got a fire on first down, and he's on the outside. There's a lot of room for Brad Thomas. A move, and he's set free. Dance into the end zone. Touchdown. So it goes.
Run with it. Stumbling. Gets down into the end zone. And looking to throw it. And he throws it in the end zone. Caught!
First and 10 from the 11. And spin move for Smith. Push the B button. Dance into the end zone.
They'll throw it. Looking. Here comes the rush. Stepping up. Pavia now running around. Being chased. Looks across. Throws it up and wide open. Ball is caught. Touchdown. Jimmy Gaye. Dropping, looking, stepping up. He's going to run. He's got a lot of green in front of him. To the end zone. Touchdown. Rio Rancho, Isaiah Chavez. Chavez set. He's going to run with it again and dives and...
It's Austin Smith, and to the outside, a lot of room. Look out, a foot race down the sideline. All the way on the first play from scrimmage, Chris. That's a touchdown.
Scrambling. And off, great hit. He bounces off outside. Got some daylight at the 20, the 10, the 5. What an incredible run.
Wants another!
Opportunity here. Martinez shoots, he scores.
Cut into it. And had some nice looks at the rim. Win. Inside. They're not going to miss this one. Two-hand hammer from Murillo.
Ball's played up. Rodriguez with it. Gonna settle. Looks to the inside. Comes to the far side push. Shot on and goal. Deflected in. No.
Dorian's gonna go all the way. It was blocked by the rim. Get it out, says Kobe Wade. Ramos. Got it.
Oh!
Are you muted, JJ?
You muted.
It does not get any easier for the Los Angeles Rams, already without Jared Goff. Broken thumb heading into week 17. They put Cooper Kupp on the COVID-19 reserve list. So one less option for their quarterback, John Wolford, the pride of Wake Forest, who will be taking the snaps for Sean McVay in his offense in a must-win football game, week 17, Arizona, LA Rams. Who will make it to the postseason? It's still crazy. We played 16 weeks of the NFL season, and as we sit here right now, there's still 35 potential wild card matchups possible heading into this weekend. You know, the top seed locked up, Kansas City. Everyone else will be playing on wild card weekend with 7 teams from each conference making the postseason. It's the opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, The Sports Animal. JJ Buck joined by our quarterback, Ned James, Micah, got Alden and Josh holding it down on the ProView side. Quan's Auto Care hotline is 246-0610. We get Mason Rudolph, Myles Garrett, the revenge game this weekend, as Pittsburgh announced that they're going to rest Ben Roethlisberger, which makes sense. It's not necessarily about timing reps for Ben. It's about rest and making sure he is good to go. Get every last drop out of him that you can in the postseason, because prior to the second half this past Sunday, Big Ben looked broken. I'm still not sure we can count on him in the playoffs, but that second half gave you a little bit of hope if you're a Steelers fan that maybe, just maybe, that team can find something at the right time after starting 11-0 and then losing 3 straight football games. But it's huge because Cleveland, with all of their issues, they placed 2 more defensive players on the reserve list today. We saw what happened without their starting wide receivers against the New York Jets. They fell flat. They're in a must-win situation on Sunday. So it gives them a little bit of an advantage that it's Mason Rudolph instead of Ben Roethlisberger playing in that contest. But division opponents, Cleveland has to be upset that they missed an opportunity. This game could have been for the AFC North. There was a chance that the Browns could have won the division had they beaten the New York Jets. That is not the case. Here we are. But what that does mean is if Tennessee, Cleveland, Miami, and Baltimore win this weekend, they're in. The team that needs help is the Indianapolis Colts. If the Indianapolis Colts win, they could still be on the outside looking in if there's other teams win. I think the team that's probably flying high right now is Baltimore Ravens. They've really gotten back to who they are. J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards running the football. The offensive line is creating lanes. Lamar Jackson doing his thing. And if we're talking about dangerous teams at the right time, Ned, the Baltimore Ravens are that squad.
Yeah, and when you have the previous year's MVP at quarterback, you're always going to have a chance. The style of play that they've incorporated into the NFL is one to watch because they have been successful every year, and they have a quarterback who's capable of running that system. But yet they haven't won a playoff game. And it doesn't have anything to do with me. I know people are analyzing the fact that, the passing game is pretty generic and basic, and it lends itself to not being able to afford a team to come from behind late in games. But that's, you're just trying to win the game, whether you're coming from behind or whether you're, ahead and trying to hold on to a lead. It's all the same. It's just when you're in the playoffs, you're playing better teams, and you have to win against better teams, and they haven't been able to do that in the playoffs. So Baltimore, everyone's a formidable opponent that gets into the playoffs. It's not, even though it's rare, it's not really uncommon for a team who's a wild card to go all the way to the Super Bowl. So the Dallas Cowboys have a chance if they get in.
You're giving Cowboy fans so much hope this morning, Ned.
Because I don't hear from them. I'm just disappointed that this city is not on fire for the Cowboys and they have a chance to be in the playoffs. Everybody thinks that Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and Michael Irvin are walking through that door. They're not coming through the door. This is the team, people. So get on board. Either you're with the Cowboys or you're not. You can't waffle. You can't be a wishy-washy Cowboys fan. You have to be excited about the opportunity. When everybody had you guys pegged to not get into the playoffs this year, they're always criticizing you Cowboy fans. They make fun of you. And nobody from the Cowboys is coming in screaming, saying, we've got a chance to get into the playoffs. And once we get into the playoffs, we can make some things happen. This is the year of COVID. Anything can happen. So people should be excited about their opportunities to get into the playoffs this season.
Here's the thing. We're just not getting our hopes up because we know it's going to end in disappointment because we get our hopes up and then, boom, Washington will win, and then it's just all that hope for nothing. So we're sitting there. We're watching. We're just not getting our hopes up too much. Got to be safe.
You got to be Eagles fans because that's the thing. Dallas can win, and then it still cannot matter because that all comes down. Washington is in the driver's seat. They're in control. They're changing the radio station. They're setting the cruise control. They're putting the window locks on. No one else can get out of the car until Washington makes that final decision, and they're going to have to wait all day long because that's Sunday Night Football.
I never thought I'd be rooting for the Eagles.
When Washington loses Sunday night, there needs to be a flag planted in Old Town that says Dallas Cowboys on it for the Dallas Cowboys being the NFC East champions.
I'm all for it.
When did you become a Cowboy fan?
I'm all for it.
I'm not a Cowboy fan. I'm just an Albuquerque, the city of Albuquerque fan, and I like to see
Who put the poll up, by the way? Did anyone do that? Did you do that yet, Micah? Did you put that poll up?
Here's the thing. If I put the poll up, I follow too many Broncos or Cowboys fans, so it's going to be 50-50 Broncos.
Well, that's the whole point. What flag is flying?
There will not be a 50-50 Cowboys Broncos fan. There will not be. There's a lot of Bronco fans in Albuquerque, but this is a Dallas Cowboy city. That's okay. There's a lot of Bronco fans. I know there's Lance calls it all the time. He's a Bronco. There's a lot of Bronco fans around. But this is a Dallas Cowboy city. There's Chargers fans. There's Redskins fans. There's Packers fans.
Don't put an S on it. There's Charger fan. And he's
Yes.
sitting right in front of us with the
I know
flag.
another Charger fan. I know another
So the
Charger
question
fan,
is, who has the bigger D in Albuquerque? Denver or Dallas? It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the Sports Animal.
What are you scared of, Micah?
It was a freebie. Saved it. And then stolen. And somehow Hasbury's got it back. Handoff. Watson.
Get it stripped. Galeon stripped him. The Highland the other way. Win up top to the big goal. Here he comes.
For the lead. Got it.
What a great game plan. Look at this.
Agbayosi throws it down.
Ramos, rise and fire. He's fouled.
You know, he used to coach for Del Norte. And
Here's Voss all the way with the finish. He'll get the. Behind the back of the dribble. Trying to go up with the right hand. He changed hands in midair. And Hotnet sent it away. Wynn doing a really good job denying Chavez. BC hasn't got the ball. Oh, Yeku. Oh. Working against Watson. Oh, look at the spin move.
Ball's loose. DJ Bustos brings it up. Barnes Tompkins, alley-oop. How about it? That was redunculous.
Turnover. Cable to the big fella might try to jam on home.
Chavy's looking, and he's got a guy wide open, and it's Gay, and he's going to walk into the end zone. But he did a good job with it. First and goal, it's Chavez to the middle, and Chavez stops.
Stevens in motion. On the handoff to Mitchell. Look out! Oh, see you later. Take it to the house. Fly. Cardinals fly. To the other side. Provides some protection. And off to Webskowski again. Look out. See you later. Good night. Touchdown. Webskowski. Day. He's going to fire to the end zone. Open man! Touchdown! Wildcat! Not a defender inside.
A little bit.
Kowski on the sideline! Hasta mañana! He's off to the races! Touchdown! Clovis!
Albuquerque this afternoon.
34-24. Rancho late in the third. How about this run? Nice play. Deckerman, he's still on his feet. Touchdown, Wolverine.
Exactly what they want to get yards.
He's going to go for it. He's got a guy towards the end zone. It's Krebs. Touchdown. What a play.
Well, it is happening. We talk about Madden and the armchair quarterbacks that are good at the game and believe it can translate to the field. Well, Johnny Manziel has agreed to resume his playing career with a startup football league called Fan Controlled Football. That's what we are here for. Finally, all these coaches and players that don't know a darn thing of what they're doing on that field every single Sunday, they're going to give the power to us. And then we're finally going to be able to make the decisions. The league is scheduled to begin play in February. It will feature 7-on-7 games where fans will set the rosters, call plays, and interact in a blend of traditional and esports environments. Our dream has finally come true, Ned. We can all be coaches. We can call ourselves a quarterback coach because they're finally giving us the power.
It's Madden's taking over the rest of the world. If you can play Madden, you can now coach in professional football. That's all it takes. That's all it takes is just skills with the what is it, the joystick? What do you guys call this thing? Controllers,
controller.
Joysticks, controller. Yeah, the controller. So you got to control the players with the controller.
It's a little past Pong, where
okay, it's a little past that. Okay.
Yeah, I don't think we're quite there yet. And we're not in the scary stage of where we're controlling humans with the remote control. But
so how do you call a play then? You just say number 1, number 2, number 3? Is that what you say?
You just send a text message to Johnny Manziel, or you tag him in an Instagram post. You say, hey Johnny, run a play action pass here, and throw it to Bob.
And that's the play.
Yeah,
play action, throw it to Bob. Everybody understand that? Ready? Break.
No, right? It's not. You don't need some crazy like.
Draw it up in the dirt. Draw it up in the dirt.
Yeah.
You don't have to have slot right zoom, 365 X waggle on 3. You don't have to have all that. You just have to have. Play action pass.
Throw it to Bob. Bob is open. You throw him the football.
Oh, wait a minute. Bob's covered on that play. What do I do now? Okay.
Well, what you do now is you run around and scramble like crazy because you're Johnny Manziel. So that will be interesting. We'll just get to see how smart we really are when it comes to this stuff. But 7-on-7 football, be a wide open game. Probably will last about a month. There you go. Johnny Manziel coming back. And you, yes, you, I'm looking at you, Josh. I'm looking at you, Alden. I'm looking at you, Micah. Can call plays and coach your own real life fantasy football team. It's opening drive here on 95.9 FM, AM 610, the sports animal. JJ Buck, joined by Ned, James, Micah, Josh, and Alden. Got this email from Terry, JJ at 610canamel.com. He says, Dallas Cowboy victories versus hemorrhoids. One of these things make you miserable and you hope never happens, and the other is hemorrhoids. The next time Mr. James fills in, can we get him a new solo cup and string or upgrade him to a Comrade 64 so we can hear him better? Then we'll work on it. It's a remote Zoom echoes. Yeah, it kind of happens.
Oh, okay. I'm assuming I'm echoing, but I'm still shocked at the lack of confidence of Dallas Cowboy fans in this city, that they're so intimidated by these Dallas Cowboy haters. That's why they need Jerry Jones. They need someone with a superiority complex, because they have an inferiority complex here.
Lead him to the desert. He's going to lead him to the promised land, Jerry Jones.
That's right. I can't believe Micah is afraid to put up a poll because he's worried about the anti-Dallas Cowboy fans in Albuquerque. Don't worry about that. Hey, stick your chest out, man.
I'm not
afraid to be a Dallas Cowboy fan.
I am.
Don't worry about these haters.
I am.
Shake
I'm not
those haters off, man. Brush them off.
Head to Two-Town.
Here's the thing. I grew up in Denver. Broncos fans everywhere. I was a lone Cowboys fan. I got crapped on my whole life. I'm used to it. I know how to stand up. I got it. It's just I'm not holding out hope because I know where it ends up, and it ends up in disappointment. Maybe I would be a little bit more hopeful, if we had Dak or a little bit better of a defense.
That's why we vote. That's why the Cowboys vote.
I know
that kind of attitude. That's the attitude of a team. The Dallas
That
Cowboys
is your
fans
fault,
need to call in and get on Micah.
If you only believed like you believed in Santa,
yes,
then they could win the NFC East.
I believe in a lot of years, but this ain't the year to believe. When the NFC East looks the way it does, okay, we can get there, but we ain't going to make much noise.
Oh, you Dallas Cowboy fans kill me.
I'm just realistic. I'm realistic.
Come on.
Well,
you sound like Lobo fans.
Well, speaking of that, speaking of believing, got this email from Rick, JJ at 610canamel.com. He says, when is Coach Ware going to be held accountable? It's been one excuse after another the past 4 years. The global pandemic doesn't affect coaching basic fundamentals. All New Mexico fans want is a competitive basketball team. We haven't had that in 7 to 8 years now. Ware and UNM are destroying the basketball culture that most of us hold dearly. New Mexico doesn't have many things to be proud of, as we all know. Last in almost everything. Now it looks like last in the Mountain West Conference seems like our future. And that is a fan that is looking for a hope, that wants something to believe in. And yes, that series, it was 2 of 20, but it's going to hurt. It's going to weigh on the minds of global basketball fans for a long time, and just want to see improvement, competitive play. And that's kind of what we got back to, Ned, your point, as we've discussed in global basketball today. When it comes to a fan, you don't want to know how the sausage is made. Like there's real challenges, the issues that this team is dealing with. But what else can you say when you see a team lose by 40? Like none of that matters when you're a fan. You just want to see your team compete.
I think they'll get better. I just think that it's going to take a little time, and I don't know where the score is coming from. It's just Hunter said it as well. We don't know. Guys got to get shots up in the gym. I don't care if you're out on the concrete in Alamogordo. Get some shots up. You got to score. This is what you do. You play basketball. I think they have an advantage being in a training camp environment where you are not in Albuquerque and able to run the street. That you're not around the girlfriends that you have up in Albuquerque. You are in a controlled environment. It's discipline. It's I guess the confinement of it all brings unity. Proximity builds closeness. The closer you are, the closer you're going to be. So they should know their teammates better, be able to know when they need the ball, when they don't need the ball. And so I think all those things contribute to a winning formula, as it showed later in the year with the football team. That sort of stuff you can take advantage of that. And I think the basketball coach has to take advantage of it. I think they will. I mean, we just have to. We're probably going to wait a little bit, but maybe they'll get on a run here, and we'll see 10 straight wins. Let's be optimistic.
Be optimistic. Believe in yourself. Believe in your team. Because far too many times, how does sports end? In disappointment, because only one team can win a title every single season. We'll talk more global basketball tomorrow, as it's game day for both the men and women. against Nevada. Also, Jerry Palm, CBS Sports, will join us. We'll look ahead to the college football playoffs and also look at bowl season so far, what stands out from that. A big thank you to Hunter Green, who joined us today. You can hear him, of course, on the call with Robert Portnoy tomorrow night for Lobo men's basketball. Josh Alden holding it down on ProView. Micah, great work as always. Ned, we will talk tomorrow. You keep up that Dallas Cowboys passion. I know Cowboys fans appreciate that. We got Jim Rome Show coming up next. Dan Patrick Show at 1, Sports Bar, Carlisle, Trujillo, Vitale at 3 o'clock. Everybody, Meta World, peace and love. Have a great day.
Annexations of Puerto Rico.
This year has been really hard. I hate being apart from everyone.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walking to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of ProView Sports Network.